Good morning, all. Welcome to the Thursday, December 4th, Carroll County Commissioners Open Session. And as we always do, we'll start with Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice the decorations, man.
Customized.
Aren't we lucky? Yeah. Oh, my. Priority Carol, does anybody remember where we started?
I think last week we were on this side, I
think
believe.
it's your
Or 2 weeks ago.
her turn?
I
I
believe.
think it's Commissioner,
Okay.
I think it's
I believe
Commissioner
Commissioner Krebs.
ready to roll.
Seems like a long time since we've been here. Good morning. And the reason it's been a long time is because it has been 2 weeks, because last week was Thanksgiving. And I just wanted to start off by recognizing that it seems like a long time ago, but Thanksgiving is absolutely my favorite holiday, just because of what it's all about. But on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I was able to help our Leo clubs, which are our mini Lions at our high schools. And every year we do a big Thanksgiving. We do Thanksgiving dinners for folks in need, and we deliver them. And it's a very humbling experience. And our kids, the adults drive the kids around, and the kids walk up, and we, offer a dinner that people have asked us to provide. And I forget how many dinners we did this year, but it's dozens of dinners, and we have many, many volunteers. And it's always a time to appreciate what you have, and then see the appreciation of people that are sometimes in need to get their dinners delivered to them. And the best part about it is watching our young people learn how to serve. And they love it. And when it was all over, the person that we drove around was just said, this was really cool. So I just think putting it in the hearts of these young kids and really doing it, not just talking about it, is a wonderful thing. We do it every year. And actually, on Saturday, we're doing the same thing with our Leos. We have, I think there's 90 at one school and 80 at the other school at Century and Liberty High Schools. And we're doing the we're shopping for kids, underprivileged kids, and we wrap them, and the families pick up the gifts. So we're doing that on Saturday. And again, we have great turnout, and it's just humbling. Love watching kids learn to serve when they're before you'd ever think about it. We also had the Good Scout Award yesterday. Lynn Wheeler, our former executive director of our libraries, was the Good Scout, and phenomenal woman, and just the service, not just running our libraries, but all the service she does around our community. Well-deserved. Our scouts put it on every year, and there's lots of people in our community that have been deserving over the years. And we had a breakfast at Pleasant Valley to honor her, and past Good Scout leaders were there, and a young leader from Eagle Scout. A lot of Eagle Scouts were there, so again, an organization of service. And then one other thing, yesterday I'm part of the Opioid Prevention Task Force, have been for years, and now I'm the official ex officio, I guess, or whatever you call it, for the commissioners. And Governor Hogan, I guess, when he first got in office, wanted every county to have a leadership group about opioid situation that was occurring. So we had a group that was put together, orchestrated by the health department, and I think it's one of the most effective groups of collaboration that I've ever worked with for all these years. It's been, 8-10 years now. It's been a long time. But a couple of things that came up that were not so great. We've done a lot of work in this prevention and recovery. But overdoses have gone up a lot. The fatal overdoses, our overdose rate is actually steadied. We also have the MAT program in our detention center, which is the medically assisted treatment program, to make sure while you're in the detention center, we're hoping to get people into recovery when they get out of the detention center. Otherwise, it's a big circle just coming back in. And so far, we have 234 folks in the program in the detention center, within the detention center, and there is a cost involved, but we're following up when they get out to make sure that they stay out. And that's the whole purpose of this, is to get people back into the real world, into the workforce. And we have about 50% of our detention center in treatment today, which is huge, but the follow-up is actually much more important to make sure we continue that when they get out. So we're well above the state average. 175 of them have gone into residential care after release, which is good. And there's usually, the benefits actually outweigh the costs of this program. So we're hoping to continue that. Prevention is the biggest thing we're trying to do, but we obviously have some work to do. So it was good news, but there's a new drug out called carfentanil, and that's what we've been seeing in the last few months. And we've got to really be careful and make sure there's no safe drug, period. Done. No, none of it. So the carfentanil is back in the drug supply, and that's why our death rates have gone up, because it's just deadly. It's one time, boom, you're done. So just remind people there's no safe risk factor at all. It's zero. Thank you.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just a couple quick things today. So first of all, I had the privilege of joining Ed Singer of the Local Management Board, as well as Addison Esslinger and Celine Steckel of the Carroll County Department of Citizen Services in presenting to Union Bridge, their awesome mayor and incredible council on our progress relating to the Enough Act, which is aimed at combating local child poverty. The engagement and cooperation through the Enough Act also further strengthens the renewal of relationships between the county and between our municipalities, which we've all striven hard to help foster. And it's just one of the ways that it helps to ensure that county services are accessible and available to those who are desperately in need of them. I spent an incredibly awesome Small Business Saturday in Tawnytown this year. I joined Mayor Miller, Mayor Pro Tem Rachel Miller, Councilman Nick Kalanock, and Harry Mead visiting many of the incredible stores, shops, and pop-up vendors that had set up for the day. And I was able to purchase a number of amazing gifts for loved ones. And no matter where I am for Small Business Saturday in the county, I'm always impressed at the array of talents and the entrepreneurial endeavor that our citizens have. So I joined the mayor and council in thanking everybody who participated in Small Business Saturday, and certainly encourage everybody who is able to shop local to do so before the holidays. I want to compliment as well everybody who had a hand in organizing and participating in the Christmas and Hanukkah holiday lighting at the county last evening, including the amazing musical talents of the Carroll Tones, which are made up of Carroll County's employees. They were absolutely phenomenal, and I want to congratulate and commend all of my fellow commissioners up here for the good words that they had to say last night, and to thank everybody who did attend. I also want to extend my prayers and sympathy to the loved ones and those involved in the fatal crash that happened a couple days ago. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department and Emergency Services for their professional handling of that tragedy. And to end on two lighthearted notes, Commissioner Krebs, I hope you'll think it's okay for me to say happy birthday to you. And I certainly hope it is a wonderful birthday. And I want to congratulate Commissioner Gordon on being named Carroll Magazine's Man of the Year. That is an awesome accomplishment, and congratulations on that. And that's all for me this morning.
Wait a minute, you forgot one thing. The man next to you is having his birthday tomorrow, so we won't be here to celebrate.
Yes, he is.
He's older than me, for your information.
Yeah, I was going to say, that still keeps me older.
It might be a day later, but he's still older.
You gained on him for a day, but
Well, Man of the Year, it's your turn.
Okay, well, technically it was Person of the Year, but I can strike the two birthdays off my list since happy birthday to you, Commissioner Krebs.
still waiting for my
and
gift.
Happy birthday tomorrow to Commissioner Kyler. First, wanted to mention a Boys and Girls Club alumni who is continuing to keep Carroll County as a whole, as well as the club, very proud, which is congratulations to Stephanie Rayleigh White, who is distinguished alumni who was sworn into the Supreme Court of Maryland after officially passing the bar. Being able to witness a former club member achieve such an extraordinary accomplishment brings not only great pride to the club, but I think our community as a whole. She's going to begin her career as a data, privacy, and cybersecurity attorney with McDonough Hopkins, and has a long-standing commitment to excellence, resilience, and service, which has been very evident to our community in the past. So just wanted to congratulate Stephanie, and obviously a serious individual that should give a lot of hope and opportunity, and allow some of the young women at the club to see that many things, if not anything, is possible with her career choices. Also wanted to mention real quickly, I know all of us were in attendance. We had the pinning and promotion event with the fire EMS, always a wonderful event, and you know, we do a great job in this county, and I mean, it's It's been a little challenging to get to this point, but I think we've done a lot of heavy lifting, and it's great to see our career and volunteer services working together to thrive for what is becoming a standard not only here, but being emulated throughout other parts of not only our local jurisdictions in Maryland, but I think the nation as well. I also had the pleasure over the holidays to attend the Carroll County the 19th Annual Carroll County Festival of Trees at John Street Quarters, which was a wonderful event for Shepherd staff. So many incredible themes, from Old Bay trees to Mickey Mouse. I had a little individual who was very partial to the Lilo and Stitch tree. Also did pick out my tie this morning that Commissioner Vigliotti complimented me on. Clearly not as festive as Commissioner Kyler's jacket last night, but I'm trying. And then also this week, and I know several of us were in attendance, was the Boys and Girls Club Polar Dunk Tank Challenge. Had to bring up that a little bit. So to date, which they're still totaling, they raised $120,970, but there's still funds being counted. They came in after the fact. We were very fortunate to have one of our own, who I think is in the room this morning. Celine Steckles was one of the participants. Unfortunately, did not get to stay dry, but really truly appreciate her being a part of that, as it's just a great event. A lot of local businesses. I know Commissioner Kyler was involved previously, as was I a couple years ago. Bonnie Masholem, who was the former executive director, came back as the final pick if they hit at least 100,000, I believe it was, and Bonnie did indeed get dunked in the tank. Also, we had a couple elected officials involved this year. We had our former elected, I will say, for one, which was former Commissioner Rothstein, who is now our secretary, and Delegate Tomlinson. Unfortunately, Delegate Tomlinson did not fare well against our secretary, and he went in.
What's he have on?
So we had sort of a Rocky theme going. So we had Rocky in training versus Rocky, I guess, in his attire there. But definitely was a great event.
And I got to tell you, they're both great guys. And Delegate Tomlinson, he ordered a Rocky set of clothes, but he ordered youth size instead of adult size. He opened it up, and that's why he's in gray sweatpants. So he had great intentions.
But as always, just a great example of how Carroll County comes together. And just real briefly, I am going to mention, I know Commissioner Krebs mentioned the Lynn Wheeler receiving the Good Scout Award, which, Lynn's done so much for this community. As have all the previous recipients. So it was just always great to see the community get together and support another member of the community. And that's all for me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Carroll County. Again, I want to wish Commissioner Krebs and Commissioner Kyler happy birthday.
Yeah.
I also want to thank, has been mentioned, the tree lighting last night, the menorah lighting last night. That celebration's grown exponentially over the past few years. And it is very, very nice, and I would encourage everybody to try to attend next year. It just keeps growing in popularity, and we hope some folks can make it. And I do want to congratulate Commissioner Gordon on Person of the Year, and I've already warned him we are going to have a lot of fun with that one for the next couple months, and it's already begun, and he found that out last night. So again, congratulations to you. So it is the season. So I want to highlight two really fun events taking place down in my neck of the woods in my district on Sunday. It's the Winfield Annual Santa Claus Breakfast. And so if you live down there, I would encourage you to attend. They have some fantastic food. They smoke a breakfast sausage out in the parking lot beforehand, and it is fantastic. So come and join us on Sunday morning at Winfield Fire Hall. I will be there. They put me to work. They do not let me into the kitchen, but I'll be out helping out in any way I can. So, and then also on the 7th, Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company is holding their holiday craft and vendor show. So again, I would encourage everybody to visit all these events as they take place throughout the county, whether they're at the senior centers or the fire halls. Everybody really enjoys specialized gifts, people like that. And that's exactly what you'll see at these events. You'll see a lot of crafts of local craftsmen, local vendors will be there. So I will be stopping by there to pick up some things as well. So don't forget about the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company Holiday Craft and Vendor Show taking place on Sunday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I will see you there, and that's all for me.
Thank you. And I'll piggyback a few comments so far. You mentioned the 5 young men that were in the accident, and it's interesting. Carroll County is a small county, and we know most of the families. And my lovely wife, who keeps me straight, a bunch of the kids are all talking about details. Social media hasn't been too bad, and I appreciate that. But what she said is, let's pray. No one really knows how any of them are except their families. Please pray for them. And you know, we shouldn't be talking about it because we don't know the facts. So it's a tragedy. Now, good news, we had Thanksgiving and a lot of family time with that. Last week I went to Manchester's tree lighting, and then the nativity scene at Trinity Church, and then games in the fire hall on Main Street. Black Friday used to be a big deal in Manchester. It's kind of dwindled down, but I think the town of Manchester is trying to ramp it back up, and it was a good thing. And then we have a board officer election today. We have had our first weather event, and the new president will find out. You're part of the pre-planning for weather events, and I think staff is just tactful, but you feel like, as the president of the commissioners, you get to decide if the building's open or not. Now, I think they'd correct me or the next person if they had to, but it is a very detailed call, and you hear what facilities doing public works. So we did have our first weather event, and as always, staff handled it well. Went to the Realtors Luncheon. That was great. Delegation got to speak. The commissioner's president got to speak, and we heard a little bit from the delegation, and then a little bit from some of the realtors there, and it was a good lunch and good conversation with all of them as always. The dunk tank, what an awesome day, and yeah, people dressed, and some got dunked and some didn't. And it's interesting, and what a great place the Boys and Girls Club is. And I know Delegate Tomlinson mentioned it. I'm sure a couple others did, but they are so much more than just the Westminster facility. They're at the Old North Carroll School. They're at all around the county, and they do so much with kids' self-confidence and mental health. It's what an awesome group.
And real quick, Chris, can you go back to that picture of Celine with the arms in the air?
Oh, yeah.
Check out those shoes.
And she did take them off when she got dunked, because I was afraid she might, get shocked. Yeah.
Thank you, Celine, for participating.
And
in that.
it's I tell you, if nobody's ever been there from 3 to 6, it's good entertainment, and it's a lot of people there in Carroll County, and that's why I love all of Carroll County. I don't care if you go to the community college, the different nonprofits. You see some of the same family names on a door because they donated a room or they did it here. And like you said, 120 grand and rising, yes, because money will come in probably even today. What an awesome group, and great families in Carroll County that support. Another event that I went to, and I wasn't sure what I was going to quite, but 5 nice groups did Thriving Together. at the Carroll Arts Council, and it was just awesome. This is their first event. I'm sure there's going to be an annual. And what it was, there were 4 stars of about an hour movie who were all people with disabilities, people with challenges that went out to live on their own and work on their own, and they talked to parents and they talked to them. When we got there, the sidewalk was crowded with a bunch of people, and I know it was sold out. So I'm thinking, are these people that can't get in? Are they protesters? Well, the 4 stars came in a limo. And when they opened the doors, all these people outside, they were the paparazzi that greeted the stars of the movie and walked them into the building.
That's awesome.
It
That's
just was so
fantastic.
great.
That is
Carroll Media
awesome.
Center was there, Yark was there, Target was there. 2 other groups of nonprofits got together and produced this. It was just awesome. And I stopped by last night because my wife got text that, and we fight about this. She won a silent auction, and I said, no, you bought something. But I had to pick it up. They were actually showing this to 50 more people that couldn't get in that night and wanted to see it. So, a great group. Christmas tree lighting last night here, that was great. The Good Scout Award, Lynn Wheeler's awesome, and it's just such a great group. Back to the Christmas tree lighting, and it's funny. Staff planned that so well. The singers, I think, rehearsed, and they insist the commissioners are going to sing with them next year. I'm not sure that's going to happen. But it's funny, there's Santa. Santa and Mrs. Claus met there. He came in a fire truck. They met there, and there was a bench, so they both sat down to talk. As soon as Santa's little butt hits that bench, there were a line of kids waiting to sit on his lap and talk to him, and that was just awesome. So what a great evening. And then my last thing of awesome tonight is Catherine's Cause in Westminster from 7 to 9. That is a dedication. She was lost in a drunk driving accident, and that couple has done so much for Carroll County and for drunk driving, and they even kind of there'll be families there light a candle for their lost one, and they've stretched it a little bit to other auto accidents, anytime somebody's lost a kid, and it's just so touching, and a lot of police presence there. They will light a candle if the family couldn't get there. They escort the family up to light a candle. It's just an awesome event. If you have time, stop by. And thank you very much. And now Commissioner Garen's going to talk about a retirement, not his, but a retirement.
Mr. Collar, can I just ask Commissioner Hall a question? On the movie Thriving Together, is that going to be, how can people watch that?
What's that?
Is it going to be on the Community Media Center?
The media center has to, they've got to have it on their TV. I'll find out.
It'd be nice to know that.
But yeah, I'm sure the media center was a big part of it, and Susan Reed produced it, and yeah, I'm sure it's got to be. If you check with the Carroll Media Center's website, it's got to show you how to watch it. They've got to have it be running. They're another awesome group in Carroll County that seems to help everybody.
I was unable to make it, and I know that other people would appreciate being able to see
Yeah.
that. We'll have to get that out.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Thank you.
I'll find out.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Well, 'tis the season of retirements, and so if we can have Carol come on up, and I think she'll have some company. And as I figured out 2 meetings ago, the Board of Carroll County Commissioners cannot reject retirements. We can't force people to stay. So we did clear that up because we try. We hate to lose good people, but we understand that. So. Good morning, Carol. I'm going to embarrass you a little bit here and read something, and then I know you've got some company up there.
Yes.
that I'm sure feels the same way the rest of us do. We're going to miss you. This is a certificate of recognition. This certificate is awarded to Carol Evans in recognition of your 20 years of dedicated service to Carroll County government. We commend you for your journey that began in October 2005 as an accounts technician and has led you to your current role as Program Technician 2 in the Department of Citizen Services Division of Aging and Disabilities. Your time with Carroll County has been one of growth and change in the field of human services. As you retire, may you be proud of the work you have done and the difference you have made. Your exceptional contributions, dedication, and outstanding customer service will be greatly missed. We wish you the best as you transition into this next phase of your life, and thank you for your career in public service and your service to Carroll County. And I turn the mic over to you and your colleagues.
Oh, thank you. I am not good at talking in front of people, so
You're
I get
fine.
very nervous. But thank you all so much, and I will say, this has been the best place I've ever worked. It's been phenomenal. My husband and I always joke that I always say things are all about me. So
Because
for
they
just
are.
a minute, this is going to be all about me. Through all of my, health issues, the county has been behind me every step of the way. Every step. I mean, and when we went through COVID, we couldn't, I hate saying that word, but we couldn't have asked for a better place to work. And I appreciate that. And Gina has always been, she saved my life.
Oh, gosh, Carol.
And I know that she's going to be embarrassed that I said that, but she did. And Rich has been phenomenal. Celine's phenomenal. My girls behind me are phenomenal. I loved working here. It's great. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to do that. So,
You can volunteer now.
Nicely said.
You have
Nicely
plenty of
said.
time.
now,
Oh, say yes.
She tells us she's going to sleep.
You can sleep and volunteer too.
yes. Plan on sleeping a lot.
Carol's time with us, it's been so long, but absolutely phenomenal. Her position is one that requires a lot of attention to detail and being deadline oriented, and Carol definitely has kept many of us on track. Your retirement is so well deserved, and you know Carol's story with us is one of commitment and dedication, humor as well, but also, and some will know what I mean by this, but also strength. So we will miss you. I will miss you. And thank you for everything that you've done. You're welcome.
I wasn't going to get emotional, but somehow I
You
am.
started it.
I just wanted to say a couple of things, and I'm sorry I'm behind you, Carol, but I wanted you guys to have the spotlight. Carol is amazing, and she is that person that if you need to know something, especially whether it's in the senior centers or whether it's our congregate meal programs, data from our senior STAT program, where someone is, what their schedule is, how we can get this done, that's going to be Carol. She has been instrumental in everything that she has done, and Carol could have left us years ago. Lord knows that she really, at some points, was saying, no, I think I'm going to stay retired. I'm not going to come into work. But we said, no, Carol, we need you here. And she said, no, and we kept pushing, and she said, okay. Here I am. You got me. I'm back. And I think Patty Whitson, everybody remembers Patty back in the day, was a big push for that as well. And we are so thankful that Carol has been with us to keep pushing our programs forward and supporting our seniors. It's been amazing, Carol, and we're going to miss you so much. And I don't want to tear up as I'm sitting back here. I was. So that's all I'm going to say. But we love you. We're going to miss you a ton. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Rich?
I'm sorry, Rich. I just have to. I know I say I don't talk in front of people, and here I am not being able to keep my mouth shut. When I had breast cancer, Celine brought me food. That always touched my heart, and she was not in the position she's in now, but it meant so much to me that she would do that. So thank you, Celine.
I've got to ask some of the ones around you, Did she always look this happy when she was working? She looks so happy today.
Me? No.
Only when she's talking about her
Thank you
retirement.
for all you do.
And her countdown, what, 6 days? Yeah.
6 days.
That darn countdown.
Well, Carol, thank you so very much for everything you've done for us and for working with us. And so I got to ask, what's coming next? What do you have in store?
Well, my husband is back there, Dan Fisher, and we are actually thinking, after I get done this sleeping and all that, we're thinking about possibly moving either a little more west in Pennsylvania or a little more north. We haven't totally made up our minds.
See, that's interesting. Normally people move south, they don't go north.
I know. I don't like hot weather, so
You like the snow at Christmas.
I do. I do.
Awesome. Well,
As
best
long as I don't have to drive in it.
understood.
Will not do
Understood.
that, but
Well, the best of both of you, and God bless you.
thank you.
If I could say something too. 6 years ago, when I got my position, came into my current position, Carol had a gift for me on my desk. It was 2 big bottles of ibuprofen and a bow. Said, "You're going to probably need this." And that was an example of Carol's sense of humor. And, listening to what Gina said and to what Celine had said, the thing is, I totally agree with what Carol said. Working for the Bureau of Aging has been an incredible experience for 9 years for me. And I didn't expect that when I came. I didn't know what to expect, and it's been amazing. And we've had some really good times. We've had some tough times. Carol has always been a big part of that, either helping us get through the tough times or getting us to the really great times. But where Carol really excels and shines and is so very important to me, it's the in-between time. And what I mean by that is she always keeps us focused on where we need to go with a sense of humor. And because you can lose so many details in our jobs, and Carol never lets us forget those. And that in-between time with this, a great sense of humor and intelligence, and it's going to be sorely missed. And I just wish you the very best. I'm very proud of you for getting here today. And I know that a lot of people are going to miss you. But best of luck to you. Yeah. And I can tell you a secret now, even though I think you already knew. Dan did always text me to let me know when you got a haircut. So he always let me know, so that way I could say, "Hey, your hair looks different. It looks great." So,
Well, I think
thank you,
that
Dan.
was because the first time, as his employee, I had gotten my hair, it was like change. I did pinks, purples, everything. And it was changed, and he didn't say anything. And I said to him, Patty Whitson would have said my hair looks good.
didn't know I was allowed to say anything.
That's it.
It does not today. My hairdresser is out on maternity leave, and I have not been able to get back. So.
Thank you all so much for recognizing
you.
Carol. Well deserved, and greatly appreciated. So.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to you all. Well, you're not going to get away without a picture. So everybody come on up. It looks like we've got quite a few
You
folks.
forgot to tell me that part.
Oh my gosh, I ain't reading.
Is it a crowd? Since your husband was an intricate part of this, he should be in the photo, right?
He really was. He has always been my rock.
Until 16,
Everybody's touching.
Get back up top.
Awesome, thank you.
Where's Albert? We're good.
Thank you.
Still 6 days for that. That's right. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is election of board officers. And it says Roberta Wyndham. Do you have anything to tell us, or?
No, what we've done in the past is someone nominates the president. We usually vote for president first, then we do ayes and nays, and then we vote for vice president.
Well, I'll kick things off and start by thanking Commissioner Kyler for the last 2 years.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything you've done, and I know you have put in a lot of hours on this position. And every time I've ever come up to the office, you're in your office. And I don't come up here as often, nearly as often as you do. So thank you, sir, for everything. I will make a motion to nominate Commissioner Joe Vigliotti to the position of President of the Board of Carroll County Commissioners for a term of 12 months, beginning at the close of open session today.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Well, thank you very much, everybody. And I also want to thank Commissioner Kyler for his service, because the important thing, too, is not just what Commissioner Guerin has said, but you helped hold the board together through a lot of really major changes and issues that we face. That constancy of leadership is, certainly important, especially dealing with things like the power line. So thank you very much for doing that. And with that, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Guerin as Vice President for the Board of County Commissioners to begin at the end of this session for the next 12 months.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And you're welcome for the thank yous. I appreciate it. Rhonda and I talked this morning, and she said I won't be any more helpful around the house, but you don't look at it always. For the past 5 years, I've either been a VP or president of Board of Ed or the county commissioner. So thank you for your tolerance and patience. And as Commissioner Vigliotti said, and they moved this away from you. I don't know why. I didn't move it, but at the end of the meeting, you're going to bang this, and then I'm not doing anything after
I'm going to have
that.
to do a long reach to get
No,
over.
I'll move it. I'll move it. Okay, thank you all. Next item, contract award, cell 3, stormwater management, diversion berm removal.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Give me a second here to find my place.
Good to go? The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Department of Public Works, requests your approval to award a contract for the Cell 3 stormwater diversion berm removal at the Northern Landfill to DSM Properties LLC in the amount of $164,520.30. The county solicited bids for this service and received 4 responses. This amount has been approved in the FY26 budget.
Okay, Commissioners, we have a little bit of visual aid here. I want to just do a little bit of history, so to bring everybody up to speed, because no one, I don't think, was here when we did the last project. Basically, the current rain flap, and the map here that we have displayed shows all of Cell 3. The current rain flap, which we intend to replace during this project, was installed in 2022. That's where the 2022 rain flap is on the drawing. Excuse me. Removal is now required along with the stormwater conveyance pipes that were installed in 2007 so that we can open the remaining area of our disposal cell 3. The contract presented today is for removal of the rain flap, the conveyance pipes, removal and replacement of sediment-laden gravel within cell 3, and restoration of the outside landfill embankment under which the conveyance pipes are located. And following rain flap removal and MDE approval, because they will be watching and certifying, helping us certify their project, waste will then begin to be placed in the remaining 5 acres of cell 3. If I may, this picture is just basically the entire landfill. So you see cell 1, 1986, cell 2, 96, cell 3, which is this entire area that was all built in 2008. And in order to really minimize the amount of leachate that we generate, we try to divert stormwater from areas of the cell that we're not active in. So we progressed from the first area, second, third, and rain flaps in 2010, 18, and 22. Doesn't look like a lot, but that's the rain flap that we're talking about taking out. So just from a perspective, we're kind of looking southwest. The active area of the landfill is off to the left of the picture. Rain flap is in the center. It's just simply a sheet of HDPE liner material, just like we would use at the bottom of the landfill. And the inactive portion of the cell is off to the right. What that rain flap does is then, again, all the water that falls, all the rainfall, snow melt that falls in that other area to the right is diverted from our leachate treatment system, our conveyance and treatment system. So it does save us a significant amount of money. Just another view of the area, and you can see what happens over time as well. Dust blows into the area, sediment gets in, brush grows, some trees grow here and there. That's going to be a part of this job as well. The contractor will be taking out what we can't take out ourselves. And this is the bottom area, the discharge end of the two conveyance pipes that'll be taken out. Best shot I could give, but I wanted to at least give an idea of what it is that will be taken out during the project. And I can open up for any questions.
And this kind of reminds me, I don't know if everyone's done a tour out there, but if we ask, you will give us a tour.
Absolutely.
And
Load the van up, take
it's
everybody.
very interesting.
Yes, I just wanted to say, I don't think sometimes all of us, I know I never appreciated that when I put our trash out, I don't put the trash out, but when my husband puts the trash out, we just think it goes away. And years ago, I was in a third world country, and they were burying their trash in their yards. And I just never thought about it. We don't appreciate the water that we drink. It's pure when we turn on the faucet, or that we put our trash out and we never see it again. So thank you for, I call it the dirty work, the kind of work behind the scenes that our taxes go toward to make it clean and safe and put somewhere where we are really taking care of our garbage. So I make sure we appreciate those simple things that we just totally take for granted all the time. So thank you.
And what a lot of people also don't realize is there is a lot of technology, a lot of science that goes into these things, and it does make it a lot of fun.
Oh, fun. Okay, I won't use that word, but if you want
I've got
to.
Oscar the Grouch floating around somewhere. Yeah, there's a purpose for that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Who is DSM Properties LLC? It's good bids, but not a lot of local people, but this is kind of specialty. Have you worked with them before?
DSM, I failed to mention as we were going through the slide, DSM put in the rain flap that they're going to be taking out. They also put in the prior one.
Okay.
So they do have pretty good familiarity with the facility and with the project. So knock on wood, we hope it goes well and get that thing taken care of quickly.
I'll make a motion to award the contract for Cell 3 stormwater diversion berm removal at the Northern Landfill to DSM Properties LLC in the
Second.
amount of $164,520.30.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Now the Comptroller's Office is going to talk about fiscal year 25 audit and annual comprehensive financial report. I'm on the edge of my chair.
I was hoping somebody is.
Jennifer, I love financial reports, so I read them every year when they
Okay.
get sent to me.
Great, that makes me happy
We
and
all have different
excited.
skills. He likes dirt, I like financial, I like books.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Kyle's handing out a copy of our audited financial statements to you. So after this, I'll give you past the holidays, and then I'll be giving you a quiz on.
Will it be comprehensive or chapter specific?
I'm just hoping it's multiple choice.
Joining me today is Ms. Sherry Amos. She is with Clifton Larson Allen, our auditor firm. And we're before you to provide the results of the FY25 audit, as well as release the financial statements, which also is called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Audit, or as we like to refer to it in our world, the ACFR. The audit in the financial statement is a requirement by state law. We have to have this done by the end of the calendar year, or 6 months after the close of our fiscal year, to meet not only the state but also federal requirements, as well as bond markets and disclosures that are required by the county to meet. And that's one of the things that the credit rating agencies use to look at for our AAA ratings. The audit also allows us to provide transparency and accountability to the citizens of Carroll County as well. Finally, the financials provide information to help make informed financial decisions by seeing actual results. So we're pleased to say that we received a clean opinion, met the requirements, and that way, with that, I will turn it over to Sherry to kind of give you some information about the results.
Thank you for your time this morning. Greatly appreciate it.
Good morning.
Very nice to be here. So CLA did audit the fiscal year 2025 financials in front of you. I am required to do some certain communications to you as the governing body. Everything I'm going to talk about is in the letters that are part of the packet you received. So you have written communication as well as the verbal communication this morning. As Ms. Hobbs said, we did have an unmodified audit opinion. That's a clean or a good audit opinion. It's the highest level of assurance we can provide that the financial statements, as big as they are not materially misstated. And it's a consistent opinion we've given the past several years on the county. The financial statements are prepared by management. They're the responsibility of management. They are the ones that are to ensure the accuracy and also to select the accounting policies within there to make sure they're in accordance with all the standards applicable to state and local governments. The only thing that we provide is I think it's a 4-page opinion that's included in the financial statement. So we do expect that management is doing their job and their due diligence over the preparation, and unmodified opinion does show, in fact, that they are. So in terms of consistency from prior year, most of the notice disclosures are consistent with last year. We did have one new accounting standard we implemented this year related to compensated absences. This is the liability that is accrued when employees work and earn leave, such as vacation leave, sick leave, where they don't use it by the end of the fiscal year. They carry it forward into next year and thereafter, or could be paid out for that after June 30th. That's a liability that you all accrue in the financials. The Government Accounting Standards Board updated the guidance related to that this year. So we worked with management to make sure we implemented that statement it was a little beefy statement to implement, I will say, but we got through it this year. The statement does require that we look at last year's balances for consistency, and if it's material change to update 2024 balances to reflect the new guidance that we restate prior year. If it's material, management did that analysis. We looked over it. We determined that the restatement was not necessary because the change would not have been material to the financial statements. So we passed on any kind of restatement of 2024 balances, all within the guidelines of the accounting standard. So that was the new thing, I guess I would say, for this year. The financials also have some estimates in those included. The estimates are very consistent to prior year. You do have other post-employment benefit asset, pension liability, and incurred but not reported claims that are all actuarial calculations. The county engages an actuary in order to do those calculations. Us as CLA, we look over the actuary's report, make sure that it is a reputable actuary. All the actuaries you use we're very familiar with in the course of our practice, and make sure that the assumptions that are put into those calculations, such as the discount rates, lags, things of that nature, are all reasonable in accordance to either accounting guidance, where there is some, or also industry, so your peer groups and all that, to make sure that they look consistent. So we didn't have any issues with any of those estimates. And then the last estimate we have is related to the alternative investments in your investment portfolio. These are a little bit hard to value or complex investments because they're not readily market values out there. You can't just go to Yahoo or some other kind of Wall Street Journal and pull up a pricing. So we have to do a little bit more due diligence and work over that area. So it is a little bit of an estimate. No issues related to the alternative investments as well. There were no significant unusual transactions we noted within the financial statements. We didn't have any difficulties in performing the audit other than just trying to get everything done in order for this meeting. It's a tight turnaround to be able to get through everything. I think Jenny knows I haven't slept too much lately, apparently, because it's showing. We did have one corrected misstatement within the audit related to an invoice for the solid waste fund. It was approximately $740,000. It was an invoice that was for goods or services that were rendered in 2025 before June 30th, paid in 2026. Those expenditures incorrectly were put into 2026. So the adjustment was made to move those expenditures out of fiscal year 26 and into fiscal year 25. We did note a significant deficiency in internal control related to that. We just recommend that management just make sure they review policies and procedures, ensure that appropriate cutoff at year end to make sure the expenditures are hitting the correct fiscal year going forward. So honestly, it's a very common finding we have in many of our clients. So there's a lot of invoices that come in at once and trying to make sure you're looking at every single one. Every now and then one gets missed. So very common finding that we have. And then lastly, the one thing I did want to note is your financials are what we call a group audit. And what that means is it includes your 3 component units, actually 4 component units, I'm sorry. The Board of Education, the library, the community college, and the Industrial Development Authority. All 4 of those are separately audited by CLA, I will say. But those are separate audits that are done with each one of those component units. And those those financial information are incorporated into this packet as well. So we are relying on those audits in terms of the county audit. So I just want to make sure you're aware that all that's being included in the presentation purposes of the county's ACFR. So that's the significant things I just want to touch on today. I welcome any questions that you might have.
Yeah, this isn't an action item, it's information only, but any questions, comments, discussion?
I just want to thank you. Now you can enjoy Christmas. You might have been stressed before, but now you're done. I know it's a big deal. I thank you. There's a ton of information in these financial statements, and I used to get them sent to me every year by somebody, and I didn't get them last year because I wasn't in office anymore, but now I get them again, and I actually read them because there's so much good information about how we stand and where we spend our money and all the affiliated organizations. So I know it looks nerdy, but this is why I don't have time to read books, because I really enjoy reading this stuff because you learn a lot about the county. Some of the pages are not so great, fun to read, but this is available online, I'm assuming, so people can look at.
Yes, we actually, probably by the middle of next week, we'll have it posted online once we get the PDF, but it'll be available for everybody to review. And if somebody wants to contact our office, we would be happy to mail them a copy.
It just means that we've checked all the boxes and put things in the right place and are accounting for things perfectly. And we thank you. Getting something done on time like this is not always routine. And it is here, and that's a good thing, just to have it done and done right. So thank you very much.
And if I could just add something else to that, I would like to thank the entire team, not just, us sitting up here. It's not just the 2 of us, but Sherry's entire team in the audit firm, and also our entire team in the comptroller department, because it has been 6 months. It feels like we've been audited, and especially since we're missing the priority position has been vacant since April, I think it is. So I do want to shout out to Bobby Joe and Kyle, who are sitting in the back, because between those 2 and myself, we've been trying to fill that position between bond sale, and it's an intricate position that needs to be filled. So, and the entire comptroller team has fulfilled this, so it takes time, and with Sherry's team, it's definitely a good working group. So I just wanted to shout out.
Having the policies and procedures in place to get the stuff to you in the right format, having one invoice being out of place is not a big deal, but it's because you have the policies in place and what to do to get the stuff in the right buckets. So thank you for that.
And we will be doing a training to the entire county staff about that.
Never hurts to retrain.
That's right.
No, we greatly appreciate everybody's effort and time that goes into this. I mean, it obviously very heavy in the comptroller's office. We touch a lot of different departments in the county. Our IT people are meeting with your IT people, HR, payroll. There's just a lot of places that we hit. We do talk to, many people that are sitting in this room as part of the audit to get their thoughts and perspectives. So we do appreciate everybody's timely response and being very, keeping their eyes on the ball and making sure that we get things very quickly so we can keep things moving. So it's very much a collaborative effort, so we appreciate it.
And it is a county audit, not just the comptroller department.
Absolutely.
It is our entire county, so.
And I'll add I'll associate myself with Commissioner Krebs' excellent comments and offer my compliments and gratitude as well.
Yes, not easy, and sometimes there's deadlines that are looming, but good job, guys.
Yes, greatly appreciate all the hard work and dedication on this.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Have a very Merry Christmas, everybody.
too.
Thank
You too. Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. Now, the next item is an action item, the appointment of a tax collector. Do you have anybody in mind, or
No, I was
somebody we know?
hoping you would have somebody in mind that you would decide to appoint, and I could
Retire early.
retire out of it. So, as you know, we have to do this annually per the state code. It is to appoint a tax collector. The commissioners are responsible to do that for a annual. This will be for calendar year. Make sure I get the right calendar year 26, which this would begin on January 1st. So.
Motion to appoint Jennifer D. Hobbs, Comptroller, to serve as the appointed tax collector for the calendar year 2026 and to have the appointment effective January 1st, 2026.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
One question. Do you actually tell people that you're the tax collector?
I try to hide it, but, you know.
Only because it seems like a negative connotation, so we'll just call her the comptroller.
Yeah, I say, watch what you wish for, you got it.
I think another year.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
The 2025 Continuum of Care Competition, an update on new federal policies, priorities.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay. So thank you for having us today. I'm Celine Steckel, the Director of Citizen Services. I have Carly Long with me today. She is our COC, our Continuum of Care Coordinator. And then also Debbie Standiford, our Grants Manager with the county. I also have Danielle Yates in the back with us, our Division Director of Housing, and then also Corey Hardinger, our Grants Analyst with the Grants Office. This isn't a non-actionable item. This is just for an update purpose, but we wanted to make sure we came before you this morning to share some of the differences and the changes to the release and the priorities of the Continuum of Care NOFA application that was pushed out. The reason this is important to make you aware of before we come back before the board for approval to submit the grant application is because there are a lot of changes to our homeless service delivery system with what projects are eligible to be submitted in this grant application, and it changes some of our housing options for homeless through this funding. So we want to get into the details of that. The Continuum of Care competition, the grant is a nationally competitively ranked application that offers funding each year to assist the county in providing homeless services and housing. We've long utilized these funds. Last year's award was $642,000. Carroll County serves an average between 500 and 600 homeless each year through different services and programs. This number has remained pretty steady over the past few years. And we continue to see more intensive needs from certain populations. Those populations are adults over the age of 62, unaccompanied youth, and also chronically homeless. Before we came up, and as I said, before we come before you for approval to submit the grant and propose the projects, we wanted to make sure that you understand that there's increased competitiveness for this funding this year, and I'll get a little bit into that detail. This will reduce our permanent supportive housing units that are currently funded. Right now, we have a total of 31 households that we serve in permanent supportive housing units, and that's a total of 53 people, consisting of 40 adults and 13 children. And the reduction to those would be a significant reduction because the funding is going to be capped at 30% of our total award, where in the past we could expend funding up to 90% in that. And so nationally and locally, advocates predict an increase in the number of homeless across the county as a result of the change and the shift in the priorities for this funding. There's also new policies that they're prioritizing as well. The Department of Housing and Community Services Secretary, Jake Day, has also stated publicly that this will reduce the permanent supportive housing funding across the state by $46 million. And the permanent supportive housing could place, this reduction in the funding could place in Maryland 4,300 Marylanders on the streets that are currently housed. And for us, as I noted before, we have 31 households that we house here, which is a drop in the bucket to the statewide total. But remember, with funding and priorities, folks can be transient, and this is going to be impacting all of our surrounding jurisdictions, not just Carroll. So some of the other pieces to the puzzle, there's, as you noted on the briefing paper, Debbie and Carly were very helpful to point out some of these in the briefing paper. In previous competitions, there was no cap on the permanent supportive housing that we could fund with the funds we received. But now that number will be capped. If you look at the percentages, that will allow us to have 12 households funded with that funding, down from the 31 that we're funding now. Also, there used to be 10% of the annual award that was at risk or competitive. Now, 70% of our total award is competitive nationally. That is a huge difference. There's also there used to be an emphasis on permanent supportive housing. Now that has shifted to transitional housing. The biggest piece of the change here is that there was a transition about 10 or 12 years ago where there was a big push to go from permanent supportive housing to transitional housing, and instead do projects with permanent supportive housing. And all the advocates were very concerned then. And all the advocates are very concerned now because now they're asking us to reverse that. But this time it's much worse because this shift means that when you went from a transitional housing opportunity into permanent, you were qualified to shift and remain housed from transitional, and that funding could still be used to house you into a permanent supported housing structure. Now, the reverse of that is not the case because people that are in permanent supportive housing, they are considered not homeless anymore because they have been in permanent supportive housing and they don't qualify for transitional housing. So those same folks that are currently in permanent supportive housing will not be able to shift over into transitional housing unless they again become homeless first under the definitions. So we have been working actively with HSP over the past 6 months to review who we have in what units, how we can move them on into different housing options so that they don't have to lose housing and become homeless. So I want Carly to step in and give us some of the clear definitions about transitional housing, perm supportive housing, to help understand what that means if you have questions about that.
All right. So transitional housing provides temporary housing and supportive services to individuals and families experiencing homelessness with the goal of stability and support to successfully move to and maintain permanent housing. So they can cover housing costs and supportive services for up to 2 years. So the difference between that and permanent supportive housing, so permanent supportive housing provides long-term housing assistance and case management. There's no limit on the amount of assistance. And individuals and families have to be experiencing chronic homelessness, so they have a disability, and they've been homeless for more than a year. For transitional housing, people just have to meet the definition of literally homeless, so that means they're staying on the street, like in a tent or a car, in an emergency shelter or a hotel paid for by a charity or government, or exiting an institution where they were there for less than 90 days and they were on the street or in the shelter immediately before.
Thank you,
So-
Carly.
Yeah.
And if this is too early, you're going to cover it. So, and you guys have explained it pretty well. I'm probably thick-headed. So what happens to the 31 households that you currently have? How will you deal with them moving forward?
Sure. So that was what I was saying, we've been meeting with HSP and kind of walking through who those families are in those units and who is funded with their subsidies in that way, and looking at what other housing options are they eligible for. We do have Move On Strategy vouchers with our Housing Choice Voucher Program that we earmark for people that are eligible and can and are willing to move on into a Housing Choice Voucher rather than being funded through perm supportive housing. And so we're identifying who those folks would be that are eligible. Not everyone is eligible for that based on past records, based on other limitations, or if they were terminated from a housing choice voucher in the past, there's a 5-year waiting period till someone can be eligible again. So there are certain barriers for people in those units now that some of them may not be eligible. So we would target the 30% that we could potentially have for those individuals that couldn't move on, but continuing to work with folks to try to help them become more safe, self-sustainable, to move on into a unit, help with job trainings, other things. All these things are part of perm supportive housing and case management that go on, but it's kind of an intensive need at this point to see if we can lift them into another housing opportunity. So we don't want to see anyone go homeless. Obviously, that's the goal, because it's much easier to continue to work with someone when they're housed than if they're homeless, and having them have that extra layer of a barrier to work through.
Ms. Lee, one of the issues used to be that once someone got on their feet, if they were able-bodied to work, that then they were moved out of, they weren't eligible for some of the programs anymore. So it almost was a disincentive to move on. So does this help with that you would then have an incentive to be able to get up and out, and then you could continue to stay and have that permanency? How does that help with, because what happens before, we would get people that just, it didn't pay them to get out and work, because then they'd lose their housing or whatever. How do we make sure that continuum incentivizes the work? Or if they're able-bodied?
Well, did you have something? Oh, I was just going to say, one of the things I think is that if they move on into a housing choice voucher, that housing choice voucher, they're still eligible. They just have to report additional income, right? And until they get to a specific level. And so it's not that they're going to be kicked out immediately of their voucher assistance, but, and obviously, when we talk about units, we're providing them with a funding subsidy. We are not providing that housing unit. So if a subsidy ends, they can still remain in that unit, and then they would be it would be on them to pay the subsidy, or pay the amount of the
And
rent.
that subsidy decreases depending on how much?
How much you make, correct.
And originally, it said you were 41 beds funded in the past, and we used 31. Did we not need the other beds, or?
We have, it's not beds, and I think that might have been I just got the update this morning from HSP.
That's units?
So we have 31 households that we're serving now, and there's 53 individuals combined in those households. So there's 40 adults and then 13 children that we're serving now.
So what's the numbers here in this chart, the beds? What's that mean?
This is what we applied for last year. So this was the composition at the time of application last year, and that changes. Households come and go, and they may have, we may support a family of 4 versus a family of 2. So the numbers that Celine has are who's being served today. And the only other thing I would add is that in order to be in permanent supportive housing, you have to have a documented disability. So the chances of someone moving and then being able to work are probably, limited.
So that's different. Once they're permanently disabled, that stays with them.
Right. And so the other piece too, that there was no match required for the housing projects in this application before, and now there's a local contribution of 25% for the housing units. So we have had an information session with some of our nonprofit providers, because the majority of this funding in the past has gone to HSP, but there are other priorities that the federal administration is pushing with this application, and that includes ending the crisis of homelessness on our streets, prioritizing treatment and recovery. So they are acknowledging that if your application comes in and there is not a substance use treatment opportunity and behavioral health treatment opportunity accompanying your project, it will be scored lower. And because these are such competitive dollars, that's important. So we have really tried to do a broad reach of all of our providers who may have not put in for a project with our COC before, to consider this and to understand how you could work with the housing options, or if you could stand up transitional housing with supports. And then also promoting self-sufficiency, improving outcomes, and minimizing trauma. So a lot of the pieces of this are very different, and the scoring rubric is different. The ranking tool is different. We will rank the projects once the nonprofit providers submit them to our COC. We have a ranking committee that will do that, but then ultimately, the federal government will rank those as well. So just because we've ranked them in a high level does not mean that they will receive the same ranking once we submit our final as a COC.
And in the past, you know, only 10% of our money was really truly competitive, and now 70%. So we really risk losing 70% of this funding because it will be ranked nationally.
And so do you have a number, like a specific number on that 70% that we would lose?
The award last year was $642,000 in total. I think is that.
Here, I brought
Yeah,
them.
okay.
So when we had, so $641,797. So that's our number.
So there is worst case scenario, right? Just God forbid, worst case scenario, we don't get this, right? Is that something that the county could fulfill as an obligation financially? I'm not asking you whether we have the money to do it, but that we could step in as commissioners and try to plug that gap through the year. That's a possibility.
You certainly could fund that. I mean, it's an expensive ask and it's ongoing, right? So if we take that on as a county, the need would continue, but that is a possibility.
Okay.
And I know some counties have had discussions about it, but until the awards come back, we won't know where we stand.
And the ranking, the award ranking, it looks, I like some of the things that they're asking for in here, but it seems like we do those things anyway. So if we follow what we're already doing and prioritizing some of these things, like prioritizing treatment and recovery and promoting self-sufficiency and public safety, we're naturally going to be high in the ranking because I think we're already aligned with a lot of this stuff.
We are aligned with many of their policies, which is great, but then there's other detail within the policies that it's going to be interpretive, right? So it's going to be based on their interpretation of how we're providing those services. And then also looking, they now this year have noted that they will be going into social media, into the news media to review if we are in fact doing what we're stating that we're doing in our application and that we haven't been opposed to any of their policies or priorities.
So I just think in Carroll County, I've just seen a different perspective of what other counties do. I'm not saying anybody likes to see people down and out, but I think sometimes people would rather see that than really helping people get out if they can. And I think we've always tried to get people to feel like that they want to get out on their own. And that's a good thing. Because it can sometimes be, in some jurisdictions, it's generational. And if you don't ever stop that generational, I guess you don't see anything different, it's never going to change. And I think in Carroll, we sort of try to break that cycle, which is a good thing.
Right. And I think even in our opioid response, in the opioid policy group yesterday, I think that was very evident there too. There was a lot of talk about the substance use treatment providers and law enforcement even, and the collaboration. There's a big push too with collaboration with law enforcement in this application, but we do that. We have a point from the Sheriff's Department. We have a point from the City of Westminster, from their police department to pull in for outreach for our teams. There's also a big push for street outreach with this application as well.
And it's not even just law enforcement, it's also our state's attorney's office. They're not just there to charge and put people away, they're there to help prevent that pipeline. And the fact that they're always at the table for all of our things shows that. They're not just about their job, they're about putting themselves out of business, I say. Someday, maybe. But thank you.
The only other thing I would mention is the scope of this. This is $3.9 billion across the country, and it's a real significant change. So we do expect that will ripple across the country. There's been a lot of news articles about it. It's been very heavily covered. And we have scored well as a small continuum because we do for $600,000 exactly what Baltimore City does for $42 million, right? Like, you know, all of the planning and the partnerships and meeting the goals and objectives of HUD, you know, we've always done quite well because of the collaboration in our community. The challenge with this is that it's such a shift And we didn't even expect to have a competition this year. We were awarded 2 years of funding. So they pulled back the second year, pushed out an application. We usually have 3 months to respond, and it's a beast of an application when it goes in. And we have 2 months. And how many days are we in, Carly? Because we check every day. There are no instructions posted yet on the HUD website. And project applications are due to the continuum next Friday, and there are no instructions about what questions they're going to ask them. So it's a very challenging year for this project. It's always a challenge because it's such a massive undertaking, but this year is particularly challenging. And it's a lot of money that could shift in services across the country.
And we are 20 days in from the announcement of the NOFA opening.
With no instructions
With
yet
no
posted.
instructions.
Nice if they did it
And there's
60 days from the
injunctions,
instructions
there's
being posted.
lawsuits filed and injunctions pending, and, it's just really chaotic and hard for us to manage and try to figure out what we're supposed to be doing day to day to make sure that we are ready to apply. So, anyway.
I didn't mean to bring the doom and the gloom. I know we had a lot of great news during Priority Carol, but I just wanted, we
Oh, no,
really,
it's important,
we wanted
Celine.
you folks to understand all of the differences, and there's many more intricacies, and also we're waiting for the instructions so we can clarify some questions we have about wording, because it matters. It's down to that layer of detail. So when we come back before you, we will likely be bringing new projects that you've not been introduced to before, that we've not known about before, for consideration for the application.
This is it's never easy, but this is a lot of changes, and none of them are positive.
It's putting some more restrictions on and direction on how we can use the funding, where it's always nice if we have opportunities to decide locally. I think we've always said that. So we're leaning in, as we're saying, we're leaning in, and we're going to make the best of it, because I know we can do this. It's just a lot of work.
And it seems like some of it is broad. Just saying improving outcomes, we can set the outcomes, and also promoting self-sufficiency. It gives you the ability to tell you what they want you to do at the end, but giving you the ability to figure out how to do it. Some of the stuff on the other side was very specific before, and I won't get into it, but very specific of what they wanted you to spend your money on. So it's a challenge because the percentages have changed, and that you don't have instructions is a big challenge. I can see that, but I think we're in good shape. If we just tell our story and with the partnerships that we do, that's not as normal as we think here. It's not as normal. Everybody wants the government to do it all. We do the partnerships here. We leverage a lot of the partnerships. So I think we're in good shape. We just figure out how to put it on the paper.
Well, we have some awesome staff that do great work, and it's not just our team, it's also the providers that pull in and help us to write this application for the work that they do for homelessness, to end homelessness, so.
Any questions or comments, guys? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
The next item is more discussion on the potential uses of the county's Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund. We have comments here. Do we have anyone on the phone?
I have no one on the line, sir.
Okay, do we want to start with the comments from here?
Sure.
The first public commenter, and I always give a little disclaimer if I mispronounce your name, forgive me, but I should get this one right, is Bobby Moore. If you come to the microphone and 10 minutes, make your comment.
Good morning.
You can move that, yeah.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi.
Stiff. I didn't realize it was so stiff, so that's all right.
Hi, I'm Bobby Moore. Thank you for this opportunity to be here today. I want to congratulate Commissioner Vigliotti and Commissioner Guerin on your appointed positions as leaders here. And I just also want to thank you for your 2 votes last year against legalizing the recreational marijuana. We only needed 1 more vote. So I hope today's witnessing and testimony would, because those funds are a Schedule I drug, recreational pot is a Schedule I drug as stated by the Controlled Substance Act of 1970. And so we are talking about and voting on, you all are voting on today, whether or not to receive illegal funds because it's a Schedule I drug, which the state has determined that it's, it's legal, but it's not at the federal level. So my family has been greatly impacted negatively by the use of marijuana, the gateway drug. And this vote is for recreational pot, as if medical cannabis is not even in question here. So the funds being received are illegal. Sorry, get myself together here. So my youngest child will soon be turning 27 years old, and he was introduced to the gateway drug at age 15. It's almost 12 years that he has been overcoming this gateway drug and other illicit drugs. It's only by the grace of God that he's alive. I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak today. There are many reasons why this body should vote against the illegal funds. We opened this up with the Pledge of Allegiance, which we said our allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to God. On the side of this building, it says, "In God we trust." On our money, it says, "In God we trust." And yet, we're trusting in funds that are illegal, that's really considered money laundering. And you, as the officials representing the Republic, should be held to a higher standard, and I believe you will answer for one day. So I thank you, and I hope that you will vote against receiving these illegal funds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Catherine Adelaide.
Good morning, Commissioners. This morning I led my first Jericho March. I was symbolizing the Israelites' march around the city of Jericho, meant to bring down spiritual walls. That's what a symbolic march is. The walls actually fell there, but this is a spiritual march. I appreciate the people that came out with me this morning. My service animal, Sugar, had no problem marching around the county building 7 times. He loves to walk. It was very cold, but it did warm up. It's a silent, nonviolent prayer support, symbolizing our prayer support for the board, and through action, and to collapse the walls of fear and ignorance. I sound like I'm from A Christmas Carol, where the guy opens his robe and says, "Here's fear and ignorance." But I know you're not ignorant about it anymore, but the incredible media attention over the years has really confused people. So something's illegal under federal law, and the Supreme Court has ruled on it. And I did object on the record to the briefing paper, and this has been a problem for me all along. I've just been too busy to really address it. But each time that lie is repeated, that it's legal in Maryland, I guess in a very narrow sense, it could be a piece of the truth, but it's not the whole truth. So I responded to the briefing paper. It just needs to be the part where they keep saying it was legalized in Maryland. I'd prefer that nobody ever say that again. It's just not the whole truth. It should be put in quotes. And then I also added, it should include, in other words, if you want to have a briefing paper that says this, it should also include the federal law, which is that Controlled Substance Act, Article 6 Supremacy Clause, Gonzales v. Rake, which incorporates your Commerce Clause, which is not just interstate commerce, but it's intrastate commerce when it has a substantial close relationship to interstate commerce, which we know drugs does. Maryland has become basically, a drug cartel. So, again, you're not ignorant anymore as Republicans. Don't align yourself with the radical left Democrats in Annapolis, and I testified the same thing down there. I said, you have no authority to make this law in Maryland because you have to fix the federal problem, which has not been fixed. We keep saying they're going to fix it, but they haven't. So I would just ask that you don't be afraid to just say no so that our youth will also not be afraid to say no. If we tell little Johnny, hey, your after-school program was financed by drug money, but don't you use drug money? It's just beyond crazy. So you're in the position to do that, and I hope you won't compromise. And thank you for the opportunity to exercise the First Amendment, especially Commissioner Kyler. You've always protected my right to do that, even when we don't agree. I really appreciate that, and thank you for all your service and all of your service. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
William Stansberry.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just have a couple issues with this, or a couple points I want to make. First of all, I'm talking about the door was opened by the Maryland General Assembly. They opened this can of worms, okay? It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare waiting to happen here. Other states have done this, and you all have probably heard this on the news. They have looked back and said, oh, wait a minute, maybe this wasn't such a great idea. Our crime rate went through the roof. Our accidents increased. Our deaths increased. No, there's nothing positive about this. Now, like I say, I'm only talking about recreational use here. I'm not talking about the medical issue. That's a different thing altogether. I'm talking about encouraging adults and people 21 years of older to do something that is against what God's saying. Okay? Now, these people, the ladies that spoke before, I didn't see any accountability here. I don't think you did either from the comments. You know, as to what we're going to do to turn the tide of this and change it and do what's right in God's eyes. Not in my eyes, what's right in God's eyes. That's what's important. These people in Annapolis who voted on this, they're going to get away with it. Many of them will get reelected. Guess what? They're not going to get away with the end time when they stand before the white throne judgment of God. They're not going to get away with any of this. This is something we need to seriously consider, because the consequences of that are way worse than the $2 million we're talking about. Way worse. Okay? I mean, it's just unthinkable. I have dealt too much with this over the years. We have personal stories I could share with you. I don't have enough time of people have ruined their lives, and they started out with marijuana. Many of them, not all of them, some of them start out with higher drugs. They have destroyed their lives. You talk about the homeless thing we talked about before. This is a big part of it, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. I implore you, do not put your names on something that's wrong. You don't want to have to stand there and answer to God for making this decision. God calls this filthy lucre. That's exactly what it is. Okay? It's flat out wrong. Do not put your names on this and take this money. This was not your decision originally. This was Annapolis. Again, we need to pray for these people. There's common sense that's gone in our society, and if we don't restore it, we're going to lose this great republic that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine Stansberry.
Back in the early 1970s, the then President Nixon declared on a televised presidential talk to the nations that the U.S. would begin a war on cancer. He committed millions of dollars to cancer research. The next day, I was riding on an elevator at Johns Hopkins Hospital, where I worked, along with two physicians who were involved with cancer research. And the one physician said to the other, "Did you hear President Nixon committed millions of dollars to cancer research? You know what that means, don't you?" And the other physician answered, "Yeah, a lot of bad research, because all the good research is already funded." Well, the county has a lot of good programs. And sure, it is always nice to think about having more money. But the programs that will be funded, it will be funded by illegal money, which the Community Reinvestment and Repair Funds represents. These funds obviously are morally compromised, since they are from the sale of drugs which are deemed by the federal government as illegal. Receiving pot proceeds sends a terrible message of the drug use acceptance and rationalizing the use of drug proceeds to our kids. Additionally, the location of the cannabis dispensaries is a grievous affront to the community, with many locations in close proximity to several of our county high schools. It seems that the Carroll County government is thumbing its nose at the parents, teachers, administrators, and the religious community of Carroll County who are trying to prevent our young people from falling into life-damaging and devastating drug addictions. One point made by the commissioners at the last session is that the state of Maryland is running a financial deficit, and at any time, the state could claw back the funds of the Community Reinvestment and Repair Funds or reduce the amount of the CRR funds to meet the budgetary needs of the state. Loss of these financial resources already budgeted for by these programs could end or severely hinder the services that are provided, support to the residents of Carroll County. Will the county then be needed to replace these funds? I am asking you to vote against accepting the funds from the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last commenter I have is Rick Glass.
My name is Rick Glass, owner and co-founder of CannaCares, the only nonprofit in Carroll County dedicated to adult cannabis education. We operate under the Community Foundation of Carroll County, and today I'm here to make one final plea that a portion of these funds be designated for adult cannabis education. I hear a lot of conversations about preventing youth cannabis use, and I fully support that. But I want to highlight something that we're overlooking. A health department employee told me no one should use cannabis until they're 25 because the brain is still developing. I agree in principle, but that isn't an idealistic world. If brain development is a concern, then why is the legal drinking age 21? Why is no one talking about the fact that according to Hopkins, 20% of children under 18 are on at least one prescription medication? Cannabis is not the only substance that's affecting developing brains. Also, cannabis use has been legal for children under 18 with a caregiver and a qualifying condition since 2017. It gets confusing to me when we really ratchet up fear-mongering when over 75 children in Maryland under 18 are legally using cannabis. I don't know of an ailment where a doctor would sign off for children to consume alcohol before 21. Let me highlight a few common cannabis terms: RSO, FSE, CBG, CBN, ECS, CHS, CUD. Some of you know all of these. Many adults in our community do not. Yet some of these terms appear on legally purchased cannabis products and are also often used in cannabis science articles and research. This alone demonstrates the need for education so adults can understand dosing, interactions, safety, side effects, and new information. I also have concerns about the community survey. So only 250 households were surveyed while our dispensaries see 400 to 500 patients a day. Why did we not ask for their input? Someone on the local board asked me, why would we ask cannabis consumers where the money should go? Because they are the reason these funds exist in the first place. There also seems to be concern about how the money would be spent. Here's exactly what CannaCares would do. Offer free or low-cost Cannabis 101 classes at libraries and community locations, teach adults how to read cannabis packaging and labels, emphasize proper handling to keep cannabis away from anyone under 21, bring in healthcare professionals and industry partners who already support this work, collaborate with dispensaries who want informed, safe consumers. Do I promote cannabis use? Yes, because it saved my life. Keeping life-changing information to myself feels selfish. I am honest about the benefits and I'm equally honest about the risks. We can ignore those risks or we can address them through responsible education. I care more about people's physical and mental health than I do about cannabis. I support any path people take to improve their well-being, whether that be counseling or other mental health services. For some, that's spirituality, and for millions more, cannabis has transformed their lives, sometimes dramatically, just like the prison ministries. All I'm asking is that we give adults the tools to make informed decisions. Education reduces harm, education prevents youth access, education strengthens our community, and education is the very purpose of these funds. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was the last one, and still none on the phone, correct? So, commissioners.
Well, I had done a little bit more diving into research and information on this. I guess it was 2 weeks ago after our last meeting, and interestingly enough, and of course it's not my opinion, it's what's according to the document from the state. Obviously, education is allowed, but there's apparently some mention in there that it's utilized for children, which I find interesting that we are utilizing it for children but not adult education. Obviously, I have no decision-making process in how that's drafted or written. I do find it a little curious and concerning, but from what I'm understanding from the document I was reading this morning, we're not able to utilize this at this time from a adult perspective, which I would hope if the state's going to continue, utilizing this product and allowing it to be sold, that they would modify the CRRF language to include that. I'm not really sure if maybe that was left out for a reason, or if it was left out maybe as it's an earlier, version of this, and they're going to adjust this in future times. But did want to mention that this morning. And I know it's a divisive issue. I mean, I think we all know that, just as much as there are many other ones in the community. I think the question is, and I understand both sides of this topic, if we don't utilize this funding, they'll take it from us. But if I'm not mistaken, and I think staff can correct me if I'm wrong, we already have $2 million in funding that we did receive.
Correct.
So it's not a case of us not receiving funding to date. We're sitting on $2 million at this moment.
Correct.
So I know there's been comments made by some of the public the last couple of weeks and previously that as if we have not received that funding yet. I just want to point out that we actually do have that funding sitting here. I think it's a question for us. Where do we want to head with this funding?
Well, I think that's what we're talking about today. I
Yes.
mean, and we've whittled this down, and I'm sorry, somebody asked me about this last night, if it was on the agenda, and I didn't think it was, because I thought we decided it last month, and I hadn't seen it. But, so I think what we're doing today is, after what we already talked about, is asking for the board to move, to let you guys move forward with the RFPs, asking for RFPs in the recommended purpose areas of housing and homelessness, behavioral health services, and youth after-school services and programs. But my question, because we narrowed it down from a longer list, based on the information we got about the adult, not being able to serve adults, I got the same information as Commissioner Gordon. Are we just, are we going to make sure that's in the grant, the RFP request, that it cannot be for these things, for adult education, if that's true, what's in the law?
Yes, I mean, we would focus it, our recommendation is to focus it on these three purpose areas. And I did want to say, Commissioner Gordon, that when we reached out to the state with that question, their response was there are two other, because the county is receiving cannabis money in 5 different ways, right? So there is money going to the health department for prevention, work for among adult users of cannabis. So the health department is addressing adult education. Healthcare providers can be also trained under that pot of money that that the county is receiving. And there is also a cannabis business fund. So if a cannabis dispensary wanted to provide adult education, that there's a potential there that a business could go to that part of the cannabis revenue and get a grant. So that was the response. It wasn't that it was left out completely, but they felt that adult education was addressed in 2 other ways that you're receiving, that we could potentially receive.
Are we already expending those monies on the other?
Yes, the health department is is receiving it, you're getting general fund, you're getting tax revenue from cannabis sales that are in the general fund already, and you've been spending that since cannabis was, adult use cannabis was legalized. And then, of course, the general fund of the state has cannabis revenue in it. So I would, every dollar that we're getting from the state has some portion of cannabis revenue. This is just one that is really restricted, kind of looks like a grant, right? It's restricted to the purpose areas. We have to report on it. We have to have outcomes. We get audited. And that's why it's here in the grants office. to
So I
manage.
want to ask about specifically on the homeless, housing and homeless. So considering this has to be for youth, and I think, I agree with everyone's comments that have been made. I mean, basically on both sides about what we're trying to accomplish with this is to educate people about the harms of cannabis use, especially recreational and illegal cannabis use is not for medicinal purposes. And we're not even talking about anything about medicinal use. But for the homeless and housing, I think there's not that many. Do we have many homeless youth?
So we didn't focus these specifically on youth. If the board would like us to do that, and when we looked at these purpose areas, these weren't youth focused necessarily. We can address anybody's housing and homelessness situation. And in Carroll County, the largest increase in homelessness is among older adults, it is across the country. Persons over 60 are experiencing homelessness at greater rates, and we're seeing that too. So we didn't say that each of these have to be used for youth. Just the youth after school programming would be youth.
Yeah, but I'm just, given what we were told, that it's not supposed to be for adult education.
Well, adult education is happening with the health department's prevention money.
Right, so these still would fit into those categories that we were talking about, what the intention of the laws are and what the intention of what we are trying to do here. That these three categories would still fit, given that.
Yes, I think so. I think I'm understanding the question.
And right now, we're not voting to accept the money, we're just voting to bring back RFPs in these areas to see what they're recommending to do
Yes.
with the money.
Yes.
And at that point, we could say, no, we don't think that's a good idea. This is not.
That is true, yes.
And I think that's a good description, and at least of my question. So if we do the recommended motion, we're saying for you to guys get started on these three things.
Yes.
Do we need to say it in the motion, or is it already understood? You're going to keep evaluating and asking the state and trying to change stuff moving forward, or do we need to say that we really feel you should keep looking at opportunities for this?
I just think we sort of seem in agreement that, especially for youth, it is a gateway drug.
Yeah.
At an early age until you're a certain age. At some point, I think there's people that believe that there's medicinal value if it was done correctly, which we can't do it correctly because of the federal law. But for the purposes of this, I think we have agreement that it is about prevention. It is about letting young people know that this is not a good idea at all, period. It is a gateway drug. And that's the whole idea of the purpose of this is not to how you do it. It's that they shouldn't be doing it when you're at that age, I believe. So I'm not sure how we direct the RFPs. I think that's why we put these categories in, behavioral health. I mean, I'm not sure what's going to come back, but I think that's the intention of what we're trying to do with the money. Now, the question is, if we don't take the money, if it's federal, this whole thing has boggled my mind for many years. Banks couldn't take it, now banks do take it. But it's insane that Congress doesn't, but we can't control that. I can't control Congress, they can't control themselves. All I can control is what's in front of us. I believe if we don't take the money, they're going to take the same money and spend it somewhere else on something, training someone else in a way that maybe we don't think they should be. So I'd rather at least control the dollars of what message we're sending out with our little bit that we maybe have. But I'd like to also see the programs that we're coming back and making sure they're aligned with the values I believe that most in our community have.
Well, the RFP, once it's let, you will
Right.
come back and
No, but
award the
It'd be
the
nice
program.
for them to
So-
know when they're putting this stuff, even with these three categories. I don't know, they're not listening, but if you put some narrative to it of the kinds of things we're looking for. It would give them more direction.
Yeah, so if the board's interested in a focus on juveniles, we certainly can do this. But remember, this money isn't about education for, anti-cannabis. That is being done by the funding that's going to the health department. This isn't really about education in that regard at all. This is about serving homeless or serving behavioral health, people who are suffering from behavioral health issues. It could be totally unrelated to a cannabis issue.
Correct.
It
Just
could be,
want to
but-
make sure that that's clear because when the RFP comes back for you to award the various projects, I don't want there to be a misunderstanding thinking that it was about, anti-cannabis.
It wouldn't be
It's not
anti, it would just,
necessarily anti.
it would just, I'm not saying anti, it would be about educating people into okay, we have the cigarette restitution fund, we've had for 30 years. It's about smoking. It's about, and the same with the opioid restoration fund, it's supposed to be similar. So I would think that the intention would be at least touching on it, or not, or
It's
at least.
not, though.
Okay.
And it really isn't. But the money that's going to the health department from the sale of cannabis, they have a specific grant that they receive that they are using for prevention.
I understand what you're saying. I guess what I'm trying to say,
Prevention work is not included in the law or in the purpose areas. But what we did, and I just, before I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we did brainstorm this after we met last time. And I think within these 3 purpose areas, addiction will be addressed. So for homeless services, anybody going through, presenting with a unhoused situation in the county goes through coordinated entry. And as a part of that, HSP does the coordinated entry for the county. They're evaluated, and one of the for barriers to housing, and one of those areas of evaluation is addiction. So it's addressed within that evaluation if that is a barrier to housing. Within behavioral health, if we are funding a behavioral health program with this money, if someone's doing a behavioral health assessment, addiction is going to be part of that assessment, and that will be addressed. And then within youth programming, after-school programs, just by nature, are building resiliency for kids not to take a path of drug use, right? They're building other interests and positive role models. So I think that within each program area, we could be addressing addiction as a barrier to housing, as a barrier to good mental health and behavioral health, and for healthy.
Okay, and what I'm just suggesting, is it possible that the decision to move forward after the RFPs come to us may be based on what's in those RFPs and whether we believe it's, I'm speaking for myself, but I personally would like to see something that talks about addiction with at some point, self-control, controlling your own mind and your own actions. Kids need to hear it directly, young people. And I think having some of those components would help me be able to support a future, RFP.
And won't, well, and like I say, I don't know, we modify the motion, but comments like this will help. You don't want to come here with an award and us object to it. So you're going to communicate with us, and you're going to hopefully look at the proposals you get and see which ones fit more closely to what we're talking about, correct?
I don't see a really clear link between what this money is supposed to do and cannabis prevention activities. That's where I'm struggling a little bit. This is to serve low income and or areas that were disproportionately impacted by incarcerations directly related to cannabis sales or consumption, and it's being pushed out by the Office of Social Equity at the state level. So this is to help communities with some of these problems. It's not to prevent cannabis use. It's not to educate adults on how to use cannabis. It's not the purpose of this money. To me, it's a grant, and you hired a grants manager that doesn't see gray areas, right? It's black or white to me. I've said this, I don't think, to this board, but to other boards, I color within the lines. And I think that's what you want in a grants office. You don't want us I don't look for ways to spend money that may be eligible. I want to say this is an eligible use. So that's my recommendation for the board. I don't see that as an eligible use of this money, and the state doesn't either, and therefore that's why they directed us to the other two sources of cannabis revenue that they could use for those purposes.
And I'm suggesting that that's why we have some discretion, and that's why we got the list last month of the different things, and that's why we sort of focused on these three, because you did ask for discretion. And what I'm trying to say is each county, each governing body has discretion, and that's why we're here. And I'm suggesting that the kinds of things, and this is me, there's 5 of us, the low income, more than anyone, I think, needs some direction about how do you get out of this situation. And it's by controlling yourself, controlling your own direction, and sometimes using addictive behaviors in many ways is not that way. And they're the kind of conversations I think need to occur with people. And I'd like to hear, if we're going to use the money, let's use it for something in a positive way. And it might not just be cannabis, it might be alcohol, it might be drugs. But that whole idea with low income, they don't necessarily have sometimes role models. And that's why these programs are good for them to have that kind of message. And if we get so much grant money, if we can just throw it out there and support something else, we're trying to do something different and new and having a message in there about possibly about addictive behaviors. That's why behavioral health services, after-school programs, the whole purpose of a lot of these after-school programs is to focus their kids on positive behaviors. One of the positive behaviors is avoiding addictive things that get in are a barrier to moving forward.
Yes, and I think that's the easiest one. You know, that one, the line is really clear to me. I think, and again, I think for housing services, if you are homeless, you go through an assessment, and if addiction is one of your barriers to housing, and it isn't for everyone, that's not the barrier for everyone, but if it is, that will be addressed within their assessment to access the housing and homelessness services. And I think for a behavioral health project, their assessment of that client coming in for a behavioral health service is going to include addiction as a part of their assessment.
I don't think there's any problem with putting that.
No, we would
into
include, we could include that, but it wouldn't be specific to cannabis, and it wouldn't be specific to educating adults or preventing cannabis use. It would be a broader addiction.
I guess what I'm trying to say is it may depend on whether the board votes for these things or not. I'm just trying to give you some direction from my perspective.
Yes, yeah.
Just for a point of clarification, if I could, from Commissioner Krebs, I just want to make sure I have your comments correct here. So when you're looking at housing and homelessness and behavioral health, you're wanting to include that specifically towards youth. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's what you're saying this part of the grant is for.
We could do that. And we talked, Corey and I did talk about that before we brought a recommendation. I think I mentioned it last time, whether we should target all the money to youth. So it would be kids that are facing homelessness, kids with a behavioral health crisis, and I say kids. I'm talking probably in those cases 18 and over, because we're not going to serve a youth under 18 who's homeless.
I'd even say up to 25, just because.
But the youth programming would be younger, obviously.
I guess my question, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No.
I guess my question to that thought process would be this. We've talked and we've heard from the grants office about how the health department's involved with some of this. We have after-school programs, be it the Boys and Girls Club, be it other organizations that are already involved in some of this. And I understand wanting to utilize a portion of this, say, for after-school services and programs, be it through the Boys and Girls Club, school system, however. But I think I would be, I will say, uncomfortable if we were just going to limit this to youth, because here's the thing. Housing and homelessness, behavioral health services, whether that's an adult or potentially a youth, and I know exactly where you're coming from, and I'm not being at all disagreeable with you, I think you have to also look at the question, how do those affect youth through an adult? Because if I'm a youth living in a situation, or I have a family member that is having behavioral health issues or housing issues, that's going to also affect me as a youth. So I think, for me personally, I would like to see us leave this a little more generalized to the overall population.
I thought that was the memo. I mean, I'm just going by, I thought with the memo said we couldn't use it for adults.
It says, no, that was education specifically.
Okay, I got you. I agree with you.
I'm just saying that's my thought, because to me, all of these things are intertwined. So, behavioral health, be it children, be it adults, that's all intertwined, and I think that's something I would hope we can all kind of just agree on, let the grants office kind of take it from here and see what they come back with. That's just my thoughts on this.
Okay. Mr. Vigliotti?
Oh, thank you. So just, I get a couple questions. I mean, and Tim, maybe you can help me out with a few of these, right? I mean, everybody knows I still have some lingering concerns and some thoughts about this. So that this idea of federal versus local supremacy when it comes to something that is illegal federally but legalized locally, right? Has the federal government offered any guidance or given any suggestions about a situation like this? Because let me be very clear before. I mean, I don't disagree with any of the discussion up here about what you want to use it for good purposes. I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I know that local police departments, and this is an example of why I'm curious about this, because local police departments will use drug money routinely for positive causes and for positive reasons. And so in a situation with a government between federal and local and the supremacy, where is the issue there? And then how does that also affect a police department from using, money illicitly, or illicit money that was gained through a crime, from using it for something good?
The speakers earlier were correct that marijuana remains a Schedule I drug, illegal under federal law. If the federal government wanted to come and close down a dispensary, they could, for violating the federal laws on dispensation of marijuana. If they wanted to arrest people for possession or selling a small amount or trafficking it under the federal laws, they could, and sometimes they still do. What was done in 40 states for medical marijuana and for 24 states for recreational, as I said, they are no longer illegal under state law. So our county sheriffs, our county police departments, our city police departments cannot enforce any state laws about marijuana because it was legalized under certain circumstances in Maryland.
Whether they can or they can't enforce?
They cannot.
Okay.
They can no longer arrest you if you have a limited amount of marijuana and you comport with this state law that was adopted. So it is a bizarre situation, no question.
And so in a situation like with a police department or a law enforcement agency that comes into possession of drug money, and then they can turn around and use that for something good.
Yes, they've been doing that for
Oh, no,
for
I'm
years.
not, yeah. I know they do that, but that's why I'm trying. And Roberta, you have a legal
Forfeiture money,
background.
yeah.
Forfeiture
Yes,
money,
drug
okay.
forfeiture monies.
So is it that the money is classified differently?
I'm sorry?
Is it the money is classified differently, forfeiture versus revenue generated from tax on sales?
There's a whole state law regarding it. That has to be acquired by the police in a particular operation affiliated with drug trafficking. I mean, there's a whole process, but it's used quite frequently here and in the state.
Okay, and then
money is then used to buy equipment and other things for the departments.
But in this situation, we can't use the money for law enforcement.
Correct.
I think the whole confusion here, and I think of the Tobacco Restitution Fund. We're putting a tax on tobacco, and counties are going to use that money to help prevent people from smoking and kids from smoking. This is not that. This is the state of Maryland, whether you agree with it or not, said you unfairly targeted these communities by enforcing marijuana laws, with an iron fist, and they were unduly punished. So we're going to set up a portion of the proceeds from the state tax on marijuana, and you counties can take that money and use it for specific purposes to redress the injustices that you, and again, whether you agree with it or not, the injustices that resulted from you unfairly targeting this community or that community and that community. So it's not necessarily prevention. It's for redress, to make them whole, that sort of thing. So I think the whole confusion is, it sounds like it sounds similar to tobacco fund, but it really is completely different, and the purposes of it are completely different.
Okay, thank you for that. That really does help clarify things for me. And
whenever you're dealing with something called the Office of Social Equity, you should
certainly ask a couple more questions.
You should ask questions. Yes.
Tim, seriously, thank you for that. And Debbie, if I could rely on your expertise, so with this CRRF funding that we have already received, it is to be meted out in the form of, I guess, what, mini grants to certain groups, organizations who apply and meet certain criteria, right? So how routinely, and Roberta, you can speak to this as well if you're, so, and Corey obviously is as well. So how routinely does a grant that is created to serve a specific program become so important and so necessary that it goes from being a temporary grant, a one-time grant, to something that becomes ongoing?
I think HUD is a particularly good example. You just heard from Celine. I mean, jurisdictions have been getting HUD funding for 30 years or more, 40, I don't know, ever, since I think the Johnson administration probably, and maybe even earlier. So, that's one example of funding that goes across the country.
And this is a clear funding source. You're getting it based on the amount of revenue that came in. It's not in the budget every year that it can go away. This is right now, if they don't change it, it is a stream that comes through depending on how much is sold in your county based on your percentage. So it's not like it has to be approved every year in the budget. It's ongoing.
It's a sales tax.
It's a sales tax that's distributed directly to those people by a certain percentage. So it's not like it's going to be grants are like in the budget this year, so you can spend it next year or for 5 years. But this is not. It's an ongoing stream. The stream can go up, it can go down.
Well, and that's exactly, Commissioner, why I was asking about this, because
Good explanation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
my reading on this in the last couple of weeks, especially what's coming out of Annapolis, is that they're projecting a decrease in revenue from marijuana sales. And so I'm wondering, are we going to put ourselves in a position where we support some kind of program or some kind of grant opportunity that becomes so vital and so necessary that the county has to take over if the funding falls off?
You
yes.
guys aren't
address that.
spending any future money. You're spending what we have in the bank now.
Correct. And I guess the only other question or the only other point that I would make, look into the COVID money. So we gave a lot of service grants during COVID, and the ARCA got one, the Department of Aging got one, Rescue Mission got one, and we will have a sustainability question within our RFP. It's pretty standard. How would you sustain this program? It's going to be, and it'll be clear, it's a one-time funding, and that's why we're doing what we had proposed was 3 years of funding. It allows you to get the program started and to build some capacity and potentially a way to sustain it at the end. But there will be no expectation that the county would pick these programs up. Maybe it would allow them to have data so that they could apply for another grant, or they could bill for the service, or they would be more competitive and apply for foundation funding or something like that. But there is no expectation that this would be ongoing. We'll do operating grants for 3 years, and then the smaller grants will be, small 1 year for equipment or training or something like that. But during COVID, we did give out a lot of service providers grants, and we came in for the final public hearing, and that, I think, was one of your questions, Commissioner Vigliotti. And each one of the nonprofits had a way to either wind down the program or they sustained it in some manner after the funding was gone, because they understood it was one-time funding. And under FRF, we gave out behavioral health awards. Some of them have been very successful, but and those will end this June. No one is coming back to the board and asking for you to continue. They're looking for other ways to support those programs.
And just to be very clear one last time, there's a limit on what we would consider education and prevention. The law is not specifically tailored to those things.
This program and this money is not tailored to those things, no. And you will be subject to audit.
But we could tailor it if we chose. You say no. Okay, I don't know. I'll have to read the actual law.
Yeah, and the education, the word education in the law is in combination with after school. So it's education and after school programming. And I mean, you've been a legislator, so you know that the legislation is written, and then the office or the state office is tasked with writing the guidance around it. They don't interpret it to be education of adults. They interpret that education after school as programming for kids. And could prevention be part of that? I think so. It makes, I mean, that's what after-school programs are. That one, to me, has the clearest link between what you would like to do with the money and the program area.
And one of the, I mean, this is secondary to this, but one of my bigger issues with the whole cannabis is the facilities that are in our neighborhoods, because we can control, counties can control liquor stores and how many and give out licenses. But with this, they can go anywhere they want except in a certain distance of a school. And it doesn't even matter if it's an appropriate location with regard to how many people come, you know, the amount of traffic that there is. And I mean, there's almost more protection and limits on these facilities than there is anything else, which is interesting to me. But that, we have no control over that. I mean, you've got to allow unlimited amount. Again, like liquor stores, it seems like the same type of a deal, and we are able to do that in the counties, but we can't with these. That's not your issue. I'm just bringing that up as a frustration. The state regulates.
State regulates the licenses, not the county. Yeah.
Well, we get a certain number of licenses and by, you know, election districts, and we ask for a certain amount of liquor control in each of the counties.
You good?
Oh, yeah, I'm done with
Mr.
my
Guerin,
questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so I agree with what the public stated here this morning. If you haven't noticed, there's a lot of consternation up on the board here over this issue. I get it. You know, we're held accountable by our votes. You know, talk is cheap. But what we're trying to discern here as a board, and you both are doing an excellent job of trying to get us on the right path, is how do we use this money in a legal way? And there are certain things we certainly can't do. The argument's been made that you shouldn't take bad money, period. Is there a way to take bad money and put it to good use? I think that's what the board's struggling with. That's what we want to ensure happens. Can you do that? So, you know, we're trying to do our best to try to determine what that's going to look like. The process certainly isn't over with yet. The fact of the matter is that this is probably bad money. The Office of Social Equity, no real reason to trust anything they tell us, but you know, the law's the law. So I think what we're going to do here is ask the staff to move forward with an RFP. We'll pay close attention to it and make the best decisions we can, because if we can put this to good use, it's worth exploring. But again, I appreciate the comments that have been made. I totally agree, and I appreciate the perspective. Unfortunately, this isn't the only time we're confronted with issues like this. I think, if anything, it's going to get more and more difficult, regardless of what the issue is. So we're tasked to make the best decision we can. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but that's our job. We get that, and we'll be held accountable. But at the same time, we'll work with staff and ensure that, you know, things are going to the best places they need to go. Again, the law is fairly clear in regard to education and after-school programs. Those are authorized. However, educational results on the use and utility of cannabis is not eligible. That's what the law says. That's pretty clear. So, for example, education and innovation classes directed to low-income students, that's permissible. So we'll take a look at the RFPs. We've tried to narrow it down the best we could and make the best decisions possible as we go forward. And I appreciate the fact that the staff understands our concerns, our delicate concerns, keeping us within those guardrails. But as always, just trying to do the best we can for our constituents and the county with a limited amount of dollars always to do things.
So thank you all. Are we ready for a motion?
I move the Board of Commissioners direct staff to release the RFP using the 3 recommended purpose areas: housing and homelessness, behavioral health services, and youth after-school services and programs.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll be a no. Some unsettled questions and then the whole point about prevention, so.
And can I just?
I respect very much where everybody
So we're
else is.
4-1.
I just want to ask, if when you bring these back, I'd like to get more information about the streams of money that are coming in from cannabis. I really
Sure,
didn't
that
think
was
of.
I think in an earlier presentation.
Maybe just
to the
remind us of, only because,
board.
from the purity's sake, I mean, it's like, we've got this other money too. What is it? Where's it going to? It's just, I didn't really,
Yeah, we get local sales tax revenue. This was in the presentation, and we can resend it
no,
on
just,
10
just, I think putting
10/23,
it with
just
it at the
resend
time would remind us, like,
Yeah, we can resend. I mean, and I'm not an expert on this, but I don't know, we can look to
whatever's
see.
easy.
This is all coming from the Maryland Cannabis Commission's website. It breaks down where the money goes. I mean, just, that, you
It
know.
just might be nice to present at the same time, to say, this is what we're already doing, for.
Yeah.
We are already
Yeah.
Direct,
taking
it's
the
not a
money.
direct thing, but it's already in there somehow.
It's already in your general fund budget, yes, it is.
No, but if you could send it, that would
Thank
be
you.
appreciated.
Yeah, we can
Thank
do
you,
that.
guys.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you
Thank you,
very much.
commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we want to talk about AgPres and the exercise and option to purchase. How you doing?
Good morning to you.
Good
both.
morning.
Commissioners.
Been a long month.
Oh, yeah.
It's just begun.
The third, fourth.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
It's good to be in front of you today.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be seen. We're up to 81,511 acres, so things are chugging right along. We're here today with a county applicant and asking for final approval of the Anna Nelson and Maxwell Nachman property, like I said, for the Carroll County Ag Preservation Program. Here's a picture of the property outlined in red. It's located at 3200 Arders Mill Road in Westminster, 38.9471 acres. This is a remaining portion. It's one of the last that we're working on. It's located in District 1. The fair market value of the land only was $163,502.74 per our county points-based appraisal. The cost to the county will be $114,451.92, which is $2,938.65 per acre, which is 70% of the fair market value determined by our appraisal. Here's the property outlined in red again, next to a county easement right across the street. Fits in well with other preserved property in the area.
I apologize. Back to
Sure.
that slide. Do you mind, okay, so the county is right across the road. What's
Yes,
the
sir.
dark blue and what's the light blue?
There's blue, green, and then there's a red property there.
Yeah.
Darker
but-
blue
but
is
the
where
blue
the
and green-
forest
Oh,
is.
yeah, that's where the forest is. I'm sorry. Good. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the way the
Okay.
color landed on the.
Okay.
Yeah.
The GIS.
Yeah, it's
It shows where the
overlaid.
forested areas are.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that.
I'll ask again, probably.
No problem. No problem. I wasn't quite on that wavelength at first. Here's a picture going in the driveway at the farm. And then once again, we're here for final approval of the Anna Nelson and Maxwell Nachman property located at 3200 Arders Mill Road in Westminster, 38.9471 acres, retiring zero lot rights because this is a remainder. This is located in District 1 at a cost to the county of $114,451.92.
I'll make a motion to exercise an option to purchase an easement on the Anna Nelson and Maxwell, how do you spell, Nachman property in the amount of $114,451.92.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have a question. I'm new to the program, just asking. So if something has zero lot rights, what could they do with the property?
We're protecting it against future zoning changes and any commercial uses. So the reason the value is so low is because the residential development potential would be half of the value, and we've taken that out. So we're protecting it from being used for maybe a church or, some other commercial use, maybe a retirement place or, different types of things.
All the conditional use.
So do you, I'll learn more about this later, but so if somebody has X number of lot rights versus 0 lot rights, does that depend on what we offer them? Because of the potential, like how do you determine what the potential for development is to keep it in ag preservation?
Sure. So the potential lot rights is determined by our development review program, and then those development rights would be plugged into a points-based appraisal, and they get a certain amount of points for a certain amount of residential development potential.
So if something has 10 rights, it would have a higher priority over something with 0 rights?
Yes, ma'am.
And then do you look at the fact that in proximity to like possible annexation or something like that in the future into a town so that it would then have more rights at some point in time? I mean, something's out in the middle of nowhere and probably would never be developed. Does that get a less point system than something that is closer in proximity to something that could possibly be developed? Because it has,
So as far as value, a lot of times if they're closer to, a growth area or something like that, they could be valued higher, but they get more points if they are farther from a growth area.
so right now, if it's just an ag, if they're just an ag, they can build X number of things in an ag district, right?
As far as residential, yes.
They can build like a.
These people, their development potential as far as residential has been exhausted.
So they can't even build their own home.
They have a house already.
So they can maintain that.
Yes,
But other
ma'am.
than that, in the future, they can't maintain it. They can't build anything.
As far
No
as
more
houses.
residences.
Unless the zoning would change, which the.
And now they couldn't build a commercial business, that wasn't agriculturally related.
But in the future, if we change, a future government changed the zoning, they could then, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's the upside, what's the down?
So today, they could build all sorts of different kinds of what JP correctly is calling commercial uses. Golf courses, churches, there are all sorts of things that they can do.
Or in
in
the
ag zone.
agricultural zone?
In the
That's
ag zone,
correct.
right. They don't have any more lot rights for residential lots, so those are all gone. But yes, you're right also, in the future, if the land use changed or the zoning code changed, if it were not preserved, if the property's not preserved, it could be developed residentially or any other way, depending on whatever future boards decide to do. That makes sense.
This takes all of that away. Everything that could be built in an ag zone, they
Whatever
can't.
it is.
Yes, ma'am, and restricts it to agricultural use.
I'm just trying to figure it out. Thank you.
No problem.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, approval to submit an application, accept the reward for stormwater management restoration in Manchester.
Good morning to you both.
So we are here this morning to request your approval to submit a grant application to Maryland Department of Natural Resources Climate Services Grants Gateway for the Manchester East Stormwater Management Facility. This would be a new stormwater management facility that would be constructed within the town of Manchester and provide MPDS credit for treatment of currently untreated impervious area. We're seeking $1 million for the new stormwater facility. And as part of this application, we're also submitting for tree planting funding in the amount of $108,000. So our total grant request is $1,108 from DNR Natural Resources Watershed and Climate Services Grants Gateway.
And this, so, to me, oversimplifying probably. So for 50 cents on the dollar, we're going to meet our NPDES requirements by doing this project.
So this will be one project in our portfolio to meet our NPDES permit requirements. We have felt that over the years when we applied to DNR for funding, when we make the request for 50% of the construction costs, they feel like we have equal skin in the game for the project, and it's looked at very favorably. So we're just completing construction on a project that we received grant funding from DNR down at Century High School. So we feel like wrapping that project up and submitting a couple more grants applications will be very favorable for our request.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Is there, and I'm unfamiliar with this, I'm learning about this program too, but is there a certain amount per acre that's a good amount to remediate? Like, I look at the number of acres, the number of dollars, it's pretty, I don't know what our total remediation is for everything in the county, but do we have an amount per acre of remediation that we would need to do all impervious surface in the county?
So every project is different. We, over the years, you know, we've kind of hit the easier projects already. So with every project being different, it comes with different expenses. As you will see, this project will provide us with 37.5 acres of impervious treatment, and we're asking for $1 million in grant funding, and then we're estimating $1 million county match for the project. So our goal is to always be to average around $50,000 an acre, but it truly depends on the type of project, the location, and what we're looking to do.
And what is the total amount of impervious surface if we had to do everything? What is it?
So our goal, well, our permit requirement for our 5-year permit that expires the end of December 2027 is 1,217 acres.
And that's a permit, and what, do you know what the total would be if we had to remediate everything down the road? I think, what?
So every 5 years, MDE provides us with a new permit. We're currently having discussions with other municipalities or with other counties that have an MPDS permit, trying to gauge what our permit that will be issued after 2027 will entail. But until those permits are provided, we don't know.
But this is a national program. National NPDES is national. So,
It is.
So who
It's-
determines? Is it MD? excuse me,
Maryland Department of the Environment issues.
on behalf of the national. It's a national. It's a national program.
So MDE writes all the permits for the jurisdictions, and they do have to send those to EPA for their
I'm trying to
blessing.
figure,
It's my
are we different than other
understanding.
states for our NPDES part of it? For that part.
Every county in the
this-
state of Maryland is a little different, but we all have an impervious acre goal.
Is the
state of
Is
Maryland
the state of Maryland different from the rest of the
Virginia?
national?
Do you
For
know?
Virginia and Delaware and Pennsylvania?
So I'm not familiar with Delaware, but Virginia is usually a part of a lot of the conferences that we go to. I think they too have a goal, but I'm not particularly familiar with what
I mean,
their
the
goals
national
are.
goal is about already
Meaning-
existing impervious surface. The state rules, a lot of them are about new construction. I'm just trying to figure out, we keep talking about this is not this, but the cost of housing with a lot of the stormwater. I'm trying to figure out if our directive is different in Maryland than it is in our surrounding states that feed into the watershed, whether it's the NPDES, which is the national, which is already stuff that's impervious. That's what we got to remediate.
Yes.
MD more controls the stuff that we're building, you know, with all the stormwater. And I'm just trying to see if we have the same types of requirements as the typical similar states that are in the similar posture as we are on the watershed of the Chesapeake Bay. You know, Virginia, Pennsylvania feeds in some, Delaware, not Chesapeake Bay, but they have their own bay. Just trying to see if it's different because a lot, this comes straight out of our budget, this part. But the stormwater piece comes out of the new development, which is very expensive, and any projects that we do. I'm just trying to get a handle on how much, if we are treated as similarly in a similar fashion as the states around us for this type of project. Because some of it is about numbers of acres, and to me, on this, some of it's about flood control. And the flood control piece, I think it's easy to sell to your citizens that, hey, we're doing this for this reason. When it's just about impervious surface, it's not as easy of a sell because it's about, okay, we got this number of impervious surface, and certain jurisdictions don't even have to do it because they don't have a way to do it, like Baltimore City. You know, they can't do some of these things. They just plant trees. They have other things they are able to do. So I'm always asking, is it for the flood control version, or is it just about X number of acres because of impervious surface that we're getting to a goal? And I want to get to a goal that makes a difference to our communities, which is maybe flood control and water control versus just an acre requirement.
So I will say that every project we do has, many benefits to it. And while we might not particularly speak about flood control, in this particular project where we're building a new stormwater management facility in an area that currently has no treatment, by constructing a facility that will slow the water down from getting to that receiving stream. We're also filtering out the pollutants that will lead to improved water quality for the citizens to, recreation in the receiving waters. And I do feel like this particular project, will have a flood control benefit to it, because we're trying to capture and convey stormwater that might otherwise run on the streets during a rain event in an uncontrolled fashion, get that stormwater to the inlets, into the facility, and then contain it for a period of time before it's released into the waterway, where, right now that water, when it rains, it runs off as quick as it hits the pavement. So every project we do is obviously different. When we're going into existing subdivisions that were built in the 90s, and we only have a small parcel to work on. Every project has the nutrient reduction benefits, the removing of nitrogen and phosphorus and total suspended solids, and we try to maximize the treatment of the stormwater, reducing those flows going out of the facility as much as we can. I guess while we don't speak of the flood control, it is not the primary driving force in our permit right now. There have been discussions about it in future permits, but we feel like the benefits of it are there. But the goals set for the county in meeting permits for restoration is that impervious acre, which is why we primarily focus on it when we're up here portraying the projects to you.
We've been dealing with this for many years, and I always say, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And in some cases, it is about water going into the streams and nutrients, but there becomes a point of diminishing returns when they keep upping the requirements.
Okay.
And that's what I try to find the balance, because we're talking, it's a bigger piece of budgets, it's a bigger piece of development, and again, what's the end result? To me, some of the benefits that our people can see is the control of rainwater, floodwater, and wastewater. But on some of it, on the permits, it becomes sometimes about how much better our water quality is, and at the end result, are we getting that benefit? And sometimes we go overboard with certain things. That's why I'm asking about the surrounding states, and it's being done equitably, because we can have perfect water coming out of out of Carroll County into our streams, and if a jurisdiction that sits right on the water doesn't even have to do anything because it's too difficult, it sort of doesn't balance out what we're trying to do. So sometimes when they up the requirement of how clean the water is coming out, you're not getting the return for your dollar that we were before. And I worry about it keep getting ramped up. Every couple of years they up it, and are we getting a better product in the with the problem we were supposedly are trying to solve? Is it really improving it?
So I will say,
It's not your question to answer. It's just a theoretical question that we need to be answering at some point, because sometimes these programs get on and you forget what you're trying to accomplish.
And I will say this, we were at a meeting down at MDE with a lot of the larger jurisdictions, PG County, Montgomery County, Howard County, talking about the NPDES permit and all that it entails and the types of projects that jurisdictions are doing and the benefits they're seeing. And MDE, was actively engaged in that meeting so that they can hear from everyone all of the work that's going in and recognize the benefits. And while, there are entities out there that want to see more and more, we're present and other jurisdictions are present, you know, making sure that they are aware of the work that we're doing and the benefits that are there. So I think the fact that everyone is actively engaged in conversations with MDE at the state level is really good, and we feel like there's some good back and forth conversation going on right now.
Just keep in mind, the question is the end result. What was the program put in place for, and are we achieving that? It is not just about how do we implement it. And the reason I ask is because there's only an infinite amount, not an infinite amount of resources to go around, and sometimes there's conflicting. I know the governor wants to reduce the cost of housing. A lot of housing costs is driven by some of the stormwater, and even a business trying to add something on or fix something now has all these new stormwater requirements. It just drives up the cost. So sometimes it's in conflict with each other, and not only the money that you're spending, but it's going into that price of not the NPDES, but the stormwater requirements. And we need to have that conversation because it is a balance. I mean, how perfect do we get this? And in fact, then you're driving up over here. And if it's not being done by our neighbors the same, and we're not getting the benefit out of it, it might be just virtue signaling at some point. I think it started off as a good intention, and sometimes things can get too far. But just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
And you mentioned all the easy jobs are done. So, yeah, it's, I think around 1990, I started telling people you can't give a per acreage price, you can't give a per lot price, you need to look at the specific job. You didn't mention there are temperature controls now of what you outfall, which makes it a lot different. And MDE has, and you guys have probably seen rough copies of it, they've threatened to almost double their requirements because of climate change and stuff. So Maryland, MDE, Pennsylvania's 10 years behind us. Delaware is much more liberal. Virginia, I don't know about much, but Maryland is about the strictest with MDE, and just like they are on other liberal stuff you saw in Annapolis, and it's crazy, it's like if I were developing something now, I'd want to try to get it in before MDE makes their next change. You know, it's how do you plan for that?
Very true.
Manchester.
Go ahead.
You should do it.
Oh, I'll do it. I move the Board of County Commissioners approve the submittal for the grant application acceptance award to Maryland's Watershed and Climate Services Grants Gateway for the Manchester East project.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, while you're here,
One more.
talk about the Public Safety Training Center.
Yes. So, different project, same funding source. So we're here today asking for your permission to submit a grant application to Maryland Department of Natural Resources, Climate Service and Grants Gateway for a retrofit of this stormwater facility located at the Public Safety Training Center. This request, we're seeking $1,750,000. This is a retrofit of an existing wet stormwater management facility that will be converted into a surface sand filter facility. The benefits of our surface sand filter facilities is that water percolates down through, leaving the facility at a lower temperature than it currently is. The wet facilities are kind of water in, water out, pulling from the top, so that that warm water that's leaving the facility in July, August is very warm. The new surface sand filter facility will be enlarged, and we're currently working through the design, but this facility would provide us with 15.21 impervious acres towards our NPDES permit requirement.
And this is an example, this is a smaller drainage area, less impervious, and it's more expensive.
Yes.
You know, and the wet versus dry, I mean, I understand the warmth of water. There's some point you are not able to control that with climate, we're getting warmer. Things are in the south, Virginia's south of us. That's why I'm saying some of this stuff is aspirational, but not necessarily reasonable and attainable, just giving the situation of our earth and what's happening. And there are wet ponds all over the place, other places. In Maryland, you can't do them anymore. It's just, you know, you have to question that. Again, we can't control the climate. People think they can, but we're not able to control it like we believe. And, you know, the temperature lower and in a certain pond, we got ponds all over that are just natural ponds that might be small. So those reasons of like the wet versus the dry, I think we need to be open to some of those ideas. I mean, there's obviously warmer places. It's not your call, but the fact that we can't do them anymore, they used to be all over. They're all over Delaware. They're all over Virginia, but we just can't. They're all over North Carolina. Now, they don't drain into a bay, but
Yeah.
I guess they still have brown fish, but that we're worried about.
So I will say that the surface sand filter facilities, because they're looked at as like enhanced nutrient removal, when we get into MDE's accounting for stormwater guidance document, it does let us take a little bit more credit for the type of facility that we're implementing. And we've seen kind of benefits to the downstream receiving waters when we're pushing the stormwater down through the filter media. It allows more time for the stream to receive the water, and we've seen streams kind of grow back over the years. So stream restoration happening, even though we're not necessarily getting in the stream and performing that restoration. So we are currently monitoring some sites and hope to, you know, make this proposal potentially to MDE that streams can be restored even without active stream restoration. So that is another benefit to the surface sand filters.
I'll make a motion to approve the submittal of the grant application and acceptance of award to Maryland's Watershed and Climate Services Grants Gateway for the Public Safety Training Center Stormwater Retrofit.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment.
I have 2 public comment cards. I don't know if anyone's on the phone. If you want to start with the people. Do you want to start with the people here? I have 2.
Okay, are there any on the phone?
I've got no one on the line, sir.
So I guess we want to start with people here.
All right. Catherine Adelaide.
That's because one of us decided to come in and decided to hang around for general comment. Okay, I don't want to use up too much of my time on. I am disappointed in that vote to move forward with those RFPs. The distinction between receiving and utilizing illegal drug money is pure semantics. So I do appreciate one dissenting vote on it. I did have it contact a DEA agent that took 3 hours of my time, and I filed a complaint against them for not being able to get the right one in Baltimore. She assured me that the feds are enforcing the pot prohibition, but they're a little tied up with fentanyl, the fentanyl crisis. Anybody heard of that? So they would appreciate and they would not object to local governments following the federal law. And I just have to disagree. I'm sorry, Mr. Burke, but a recent, I think it was a federal marshal in my parking lot here in a nice section right outside of Westminster arresting a young male who was doing a home invasion in another place, most likely connected to drugs. Also assured me that when it comes to jurisdiction and enforcement, when a crime's being committed, any law enforcement officer can enforce any law in Maryland or the Fed on that subject. Then it goes to a jurisdictional on prosecution where they have to give it to the feds. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't. So when each law enforcement officer takes an oath of office, he said, I take the Maryland, and that includes the U.S. Constitution oath as well. So I'm trying to dispel this idea that none of our law enforcement can do anything about this. And the federal marshal on the drug task force here in Carroll County said, if you can convince the state's attorney to start prosecuting, me and many others will start arresting. I said, you're on, buddy. I don't think you need that to do your job, but I appreciate you at least extending that. Okay. Anyway, I'll put the rest of my comments in writing. as you go forward with it, you can always go backwards with it because it's going to remain illegal. So don't think that you've moved forward. It just gets harder because you're creating legal vesting issues that can be challenged in court. So it'd always be better to not keep going forward, because even if it gets so horrible with this board or the next board and the drug thing is so crazy, you have to start doing something and canceling this and following the federal law. It just gets harder when things keep getting vested. So I'm glad you've gone slow, and I encourage you to go in reverse. Thank you, and I'll put the rest of that in writing. We have our CCRCC meeting tonight at 6:30. We'll be electing also new officers for the rest of the year. I'll give you a quick pro-life report. Carroll County Right to Life, we met on November 20th at St. John's. We have voted to support 3 pregnancy centers, the one in Westminster, Alpha Pregnancy Center, and Contocton Pregnancy Center, which is over in Frederick. And I did just want to leave you with a thought. Mary was young, 14 years old, out of wedlock pregnancy. And what if Mary had had an abortion? Thank God she chose life at the risk of being murdered. And she chose life and brought the Savior of the world into our world because she was brave. So it just always struck me. There was a picture with the angel walking away very sad, and it said, what if Mary had an abortion? So anyway, thank you for the Christmas thing last night. It was great. You win best costume. You win second best costume with all the bling. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.
Andrew Manning.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Andrew Manning. All this weed talk, I sat and thought about the last Commissioners meeting 2 weeks ago, and I did think about the DARE program. I remember the video that they had, you know, the guy's on the bed, white foam's coming out of his mouth. And, you know, it's a video, it's theatrical. So I thought, what can we do different now? Well, we have, surprisingly, this thing that we can talk between distances immediately. So, the internet. Rehab, I did do a cheat sheet today because high likelihood I'm going to mess up today. Rehab have video education in the classroom with real people, raw stories. And as the head chairperson of the Soccer Mom Coalition of Carroll County, don't worry, soccer moms, I got you covered. Dot all your T's, cross all your I's. Have the addict only seeing the teacher, not the students. On a slight delay, the kids can ask questions. Obviously, the current day addict at that point can hear them, answer their questions. Let them see the track marks. Let them see the rotted teeth. Let them see all the lesions and wounds. Hear their stories instead of some bland whatever, okay? Because it costs no money. You don't need hundreds of thousands of incentive to do it. It's mutually beneficial for both parties. Sharing your story and potentially preventing a youth from going down a similar road holds a lot of weight and purpose for the addict. So I'm going to move right along here. Listening to, I don't know what's going on. Listening to ask generic questions and offering no original thought while Showbenning sitting comfortably in his chair brings me to 2 quotes that I just heard this morning. Talk is cheap, and nobody said it was going to be easy, respectively. So I did bring a gift today for having trouble speaking. I don't know what's going on. I believe I'm being possessed here. I did bring my cross with me. In the name of the old white rabbit and the now current day black and white penguin. Yes. And the holiest and divine, the internet God. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? I repeat, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? All right, Spirit, what is it that you want to say? Don't sing while going number 1 outside. Oh, don't single anyone out. What's this? Oh, I brought one for everybody. Congratulations, Commissioners. I brought a pacifier for all of you, not just for one individual person. Thank you. Woo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You made it.
I made it. Thank you.
That's it for that. We're at administrative session open. I have a couple comments. Of course, we had the elections. We're all going to move seats. Staff will take care of it. Speakers are at a certain place and they'll be moved. I didn't know staff was this good, but they also, they think every chair is matched to the person sitting in it, so they will move those around, and all that'll be done before our next meeting. I also wanted to mention public comments. We need to talk about them a little bit. There's a couple things we haven't enforced that consistently we need to decide, either change the rule or enforce it. And then I'm wondering, should we have some papers laying back next to the cards that list the rules for those? A lot of people don't know them.
They're listed outside.
Outside the door.
I know it's outside, and I know it's on the website, but I think we all need to talk about that and decide how we want to enforce it moving forward. And that's it. That's it for me for admin open. Anybody else? I need a motion to approve closed minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Agenda review. Good morning.
Morning, Wanda. How are you? Good. How are you? Doing well, thank you.
Now, Wanda, if I sing next year, will you sing?
No comment.
That's a no, isn't it? Good morning. Monday, December 8th, no activities. Tuesday, December 9th, Ag Center Board meeting. That shows Commissioner Kyler. Their rules, not ours, say that they expect their ex officio to be the current president. So are you okay with taking that? And plus, I'll be driving to Mako.
Sure, I can certainly attend that evening. However, if Commissioner Kyler, if you want to continue to attend those meetings, I have no objection to that. You and I.
Either way,
yeah.
we can talk about
Okay.
it, and I'll share it with you. But you
'Cause I know you're familiar with them, and you're,
Wednesday, Mako Winter Conference, Commissioners Gordon, Kyler, and Krebs. Farm Museum Board meeting, Commissioner Vigliotti. Board of Education meeting shows no one. Thursday is also Mako. City of Tonytown, MML chapter dinner is Commissioner Vigliotti.
You'll have to represent us all.
I shall do my
Lucky you.
utmost.
What's that?
My favorite place.
I shall do my utmost.
Yes, and I've been asked a couple times who's coming, and I said I think they have one every time during Mako, it seems like, and I
Tell them
just
that
said
we'd like them to pick a number.
as you said last meeting, we can't be two places, right?
Not yet.
State's Attorney's Office, the annual holiday gathering, I'm planning on going to that. I'll be back close to 4:30, one way or the other. Reads Across America, Commissioner Vigliotti's at church in Tonytown. I'm at the church in Manchester. I don't know if anybody else is doing it.
I will be. I'll give you that information.
And it was interesting, Tammy Ray was at the breakfast, and she was talking all about this and the replica wall, and they're amazing.
And I'm going to set wreaths. I
What's
guess
that?
we're just setting wreaths on this Sunday. And this particular day, we usually do Springfield Springfield Cemetery, and Chapel. What's the one down toward Baltimore County? Anyway, we usually do
Ward's
those.
Chapel? Is that
one on
Ward's
the
Chapel?
left.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And Commissioner Rothstein did that last year, but we got tickets to the Army Navy game, so I have to miss this.
Yeah,
And but I love that's my favorite. I love Wreaths Across America.
And they're up to, I think, 6,000 wreaths this year. It's amazing. The next week, Monday the 15th, shows nothing. On Tuesday, 9 a.m., Planning Commission Commissioner Gordon, Veterans Advisory, Commissioner Gordon and Kyler. Public hearing for deferrals at 6 p.m. At the South Carroll Senior Center. All of us will be present. On Wednesday, Commissioner on Aging Disabilities Holiday Breakfast, Commissioner Vigliotti. Carroll Community College Board of Trustees, Commissioner Kyler. Closed admin, open session. Priority Carroll has several retirements. And the next item, decision on the proposed deferral ordinances, bulletproof vest grant submission, fall 2025 water and sewer master plan amendments, 7 Ford Explorers, upfitting 7 Ford F-150s, upfitting 3 unmarked Ford Explorers, Cisco SmartNet support, CIS endpoint security services, public comment, admin open, agenda review, the Chamber of Commerce holiday party, Commissioners Kyler, Krebs, and Vigliotti.
Wanda, please add me to that. Thank you.
Friday and Saturday shows nothing. And then Commissioner Guerin has the podcast. And did I say you had it the week before? Did I skip that?
I don't recall,
Yeah,
but
me
I have it the
neither.
week before.
Me neither.
Yeah, you do.
Anything else?
When do we relook at the, what committees we sit on? I mean, when do we look at what committees we sit on? Which, whatever you
In
call
the
it.
fall, we did it in the fall and then again when you came.
The reason I'm asking is because I'd like to consider if I could do the planning commission, since I'm trying to get, I've promised to expedite this whole issue, and it's got to get through the planning commission. And I just feel like it's my whole district that's affected by them and what's occurred. And that way I can give the reasoning, be the advocate for what we're trying to do, the problem, what we're trying to solve, because getting this stuff, one way or another, getting it fixed is very important to, I think, all of us, getting it straightened out, the language.
Usually we have that conversation and closed.
Yeah, I would recommend we have that enclosed.
Yeah,
Sure.
we have that in closed
certainly
admin.
Certainly discuss
What
it.
we've done for 3 years is we talk amongst ourselves and who wants to change and who doesn't.
Oh, I just figured we did it when we changed leadership, but that's okay. I didn't know that.
We can certainly discuss it.
We do. I'm just
Anything
trying-
else?
Signing stuff.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?